Welcome to Poopcast. I'm Jimmy Davis.
I'm Guy that loves pooping.
And it's just us this time. And the sound quality with this one's going to be a little bit different than usual. We're just recording this with my camera. And it's a little bit farther away from us than I would have liked. It's plugged in and charging right now. But anyway, I kind of didn't get around to inviting a guest for this week, so it's just us. But we did, in the last episode with Hoffy, I was so fucking tired when we did that one, so I hardly remember anything from that. But one of the things I do remember is that me and Logan started talking about, like, childhood memory type stuff. And what? You just remembered that?
No, I just remembered what it was we were talking about.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But anyway, so we're just going to do that for this episode. We're going to talk about just childhood memory type stuff. Before I get into this, I should mention as well, like I've been mentioning before, that middle of May, it's May 14th, I believe, is what it's going to be. Let me just double check to make sure that I'm 100% positive. Yes, May 14th, the Poopcast episode that'll go up that day, that'll be the last episode of Season 1. Then we're going to take a short break. There might be some sort of uploads that you'll see during that time. Like I kind of want to do like a highlights type of thing. There's going to be like a compilation of like deleted stuff from episodes that I'll put together. But for the most part, for like probably a good month or two, maybe even longer, we won't be doing new episodes. Not because we're quitting, but just because we're taking a break. But yeah, anyway, we might as well get into our childhood memories then. And I didn't go to Twitter or YouTube to ask questions for this one. I know that the episodes with just me and Logan are not super popular. I think that they're by far the least viewed videos on the channel, but I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter that much.
I guess we're just not very interesting people.
Well, how can people tell if they don't give us a chance and watch us?
Well, maybe they did. Maybe.
Well, no. If they did, then it would have counted as view, and it wouldn't be like under 200 views for our.
Well, we're probably like the least interesting part of the episodes, so.
That's possible.
So I don't know.
So I don't really know where to start with this one.
So I know where to start. And it was where we left off before.
That's not even that long ago. We'll get to that eventually. We got to talk about like very far back childhood memories.
For me, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I remember when you were born. I remember when Mom was pregnant with you. And
how old were you? I'm trying to.
You were born in '99, right?
Yeah.
So if it was like at the very end of her pregnancy, I would have been 5.
Okay, so you. We're just old enough to remember stuff, basically.
Yeah.
I think I remember some stuff from before I was like 4, but
you always used to say for some reason the only thing I remember as a baby was Mom changing my diaper.
Yes.
And like I don't think you actually remember that, Logan. So.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Unless didn't you say I was in diapers for a long time?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. I was gonna say if that was the case.
I mean, even if you were, I don't think you would have been in diapers until you were 5.
Well, not 5,
because 5 is that's like the age where they say that your memories are actually accurate, and before 5, don't be messing around with your water bottle, Logan.
I just put it down.
Yeah, no, but you squeezed it and it made a popping sound.
I didn't do that on purpose.
Well, fuck you. Anyway, they say that your memories from before you were 5 are likely not actually memories. You're just remembering being told certain things. But, oh, fuck, there goes the train.
Well, that was to be expected.
Yes, but not this early on.
Yeah, I remember very little from before I was like 4. So, most of what I remember is what I've been told.
I remember, I'm just thinking of like random memories from you as a kid. We'll eventually get stories out of this. But I remember we used to call you Yogurt.
Oh yeah.
Because you started out, your name is Logan. Then we started calling you Yogan. So I don't know for sure who came up with that. It was probably Jordan. Jordan was the one who always came up with the weird nicknames. And then Yogan turned into Yogurt. Well, it turned into yogurt and also Yogi, which was Yogi Bear and Yogi Berra.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had a lot of weird nicknames. Oh shoot, what was the one? There was one nickname that I had for you. I was trying to remember what it was. Oh shoot. I hope I can remember it because it was. I just remember it was really stupid.
Remember I think I called you Jelani Green Jabalin at one point.
No, that was when I was making a character in NFL Street and wanted to come up with a name, and I asked you for a name, and you just said Jelani Green Jabalin.
So I never actually called you that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I'll start calling you that from now on.
Okay.
That should have been your YouTube poop channel name.
I would have made it like anything other than Jimmy Davis if I would have thought that I was going to be doing it for very long.
So you actually weren't expecting to do it for long?
No, I've talked about that before many times. I just kind of thought I would do it a little bit here and there, and then I ended up it ended up becoming my main channel. Which we can get to early YouTube memories eventually. Quit playing with stuff, Logan. What? With your foot, I mean.
I wasn't playing with my foot.
You're playing with stuff with your foot. You're kicking stuff around.
I'm
Logan.
trying to get it in a comfortable position.
Yes, Logan, but it's the junk is closer to the camera than we are. Logan, you didn't get much sleep, did you? Actually, no. Look, you got like 10 hours of sleep. I got like 3. You should be more awake than I am.
I don't know. Anyway, childhood memories.
Yes. You threw me off with your junk.
I thought I thought this was going somewhere. I was gonna say I threw you off of what?
There's no way you could have ever thrown me off of anything. You might be able to like push me off now, but I remember it was until you were like 10 or 11 before you could even lift a gallon of milk.
Yeah, I think I was like 10 when I could lift a gallon of milk without struggling.
I remember when Mom would come home with groceries and we would have to help haul in groceries. You would just hear Logan, when he's coming in with a 5-pound sack of potatoes, just barely being able to just drag it like 2 inches off the ground. I don't know why you were so weak, and
I don't know.
And now you are fat. Don't do that.
Very fat.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not like super fat, but yeah, I'm a little bit fat. I can lift a 5-pound sack of potatoes now for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. What?
You sounded sarcastic when you said that.
Yes, I'm sure I did.
I wanted to ask though. I've been wanting to ask
Okay,
this
what?
since we recorded the last episode, and you were like, "No, let's save this for later."
What?
Why were we not allowed to watch Arthur for that short amount of time?
That wasn't. We didn't talk about that when we were doing the podcast. We were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, I know we were talking about it yesterday, but I think we also were talking about it during the podcast.
No, we weren't. You completely spoiled that, Logan. I would have got to that eventually.
Oh. What were we talking about at the podcast?
We were talking about the record player and how we broke the record player.
Oh. Yeah, I have nothing else to add to that one then.
I know, that's why I was...
Okay.
Anyway.
You can just cut that part if you want to.
No, I'm not going to cut anything, because that's the point well, not the point of Poopcast, but that's one of the things about Poopcast, is that it's supposed to be something that is non-intrusive to my schedule. You know, something that I can just record, load into Vegas, do a couple quick things, and then render it. Which is why the Sonic High XD episode took so fucking long, because it was 4 hours, and I had to... I should really take a screen cap of that timeline before I delete the raw audio. But anyway, since you brought it up, I'm sure people are going to wonder why we weren't allowed to watch Arthur. You fucking dick.
I was curious, okay?
Why did you bring it up, though? You just brought it up.
I thought for sure we talked about it in the last episode.
No.
Okay.
There was a very short period of time where we weren't... I don't think it was so much we weren't allowed to watch Arthur as it was... Mom didn't want us watching a specific episode, and we just thought that meant we weren't allowed to watch Arthur. Because I remember we started watching Arthur again when Dad watched Arthur and said that it was a good show.
Dad liked it? Or liked it?
Yeah. And the show, like the earlier seasons, I guess they were kind of popular with adults, like somewhat popular. But it was just something like there was some... I forget the name of the character. In fact, in the Peanut Butter Gamer episode, it was either the Arthur games or the Goodwill games, one of the Goodwill games. The character that he says, I can never remember this character's name. I can never remember that character's name either. She's the tall, lanky one with like the afro.
I mean,
whatever.
To be honest, I only watched Arthur a little bit.
What are you doing?
Trying to clear my throat. Okay. I didn't watch a whole lot of Arthur, so...
Anyway, but you know, she was into like fortune-telling type stuff, and for whatever reason we weren't allowed to... I guess that's witchcraft or something, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Some of the stuff... That's a topic we could talk about. Some of the stuff we weren't allowed to watch growing up.
We weren't allowed... We were off and on, like, sometimes we were, sometimes we weren't allowed to watch Rugrats.
Which, that one I still don't understand.
I mean, I guess the show has some, like, crude humor and stuff. Maybe that's why. But, I don't know. Like I remember there would be some times when we thought, oh, we're not allowed to watch Rugrats. And then other times where Mom and Dad would, like, rent, like... Mom and Dad went somewhere for, like, a week one time. And they rented, like, the Rugrats and Wild Thornberrys crossover movie. We're like, oh, we're allowed to watch Rugrats now.
You know, another one that's like, I still don't really know why we weren't allowed to watch The Simpsons.
Well, I mean, we were never told we weren't allowed to watch The Simpsons. We just never watched The Simpsons because it was on at night.
Well, I remember Mom saying, it's a show you guys probably shouldn't watch.
When was that?
Not even that long ago. This was like 5-6 years ago.
Really?
And the thing is, it's like, now that I've watched The Simpsons, I'm like, I don't know, not only would I have been fine watching this as a kid, I probably would have really liked it as a kid.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, is it because there's beer and some swearing?
Well, I know there were, you know, a lot of parents and stuff did not like Bart in like the early 90s and whatever, and I'm assuming that's kind of the case with like, you know, everybody else, or like not everybody else, but a lot of other parents hated it, so I'm sure Mom and Dad just like, oh, okay, shouldn't let the kids watch it. But yeah, I mean, looking back on that The Simpsons is a very mild show. Like, I think, well, we were just talking about yesterday about how it's almost like, it's like barely a step above regular show in terms of being an adult show.
Yeah.
Then again, that could just be a testament to regular show being, you know, not really a kid's show.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
But anyway, childhood memory stuff. I wish I could remember that nickname I had for you that I was going to mention.
Oh.
It's going to try to be insane, and then by the time I remember it, it's going to be completely underwhelming.
I remember...
I know what it was.
Oh.
Logani Bonnie Butt Boy.
Logani Bonnie Butt Boy, yes, that one.
I don't know how to spell it, but everybody listen to this. From now on, every time Logan uploads a video and you comment on his video, please call him Logani Bonnie Butt Boy. Just try to find a way to spell it, and...
I should have named my channel that.
Logani Bonnie. You used to... I'm pretty sure you didn't used to like it.
I don't even remember it now, but I remember it now that you bring it up, but I didn't remember it. I was going to name I think another option for my YTP channel was Sexy Pizza, but it was already taken.
I thought you were going to say Sexy Penis.
Sexy Pizza.
I don't know for sure if you hated Logani Bonnie Butt Boy.
I remember I hated yogurt.
I was just going to say, I remember you used to hate yogurt for some reason.
I mean, nobody called
it
me
wasn't
that.
even that long ago. It was...
Like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 years ago.
No, it wasn't 8 years
12
ago.
years ago.
Because I remember it was... At that time, you already had the nickname Baby Boy Loki. And you weren't offended by that, but you were offended by the nickname Yogurt.
Baby Logie, I got that nickname at like... That was like, what, 2009 or 10?
I don't know.
It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but it was actually quite a bit ago. It was actually... I think you've mentioned Jeffrey on the podcast.
Probably.
The weird guy in the Let's Play.
Jeffrey on the podcast. That sounds like the name of a hipster podcast or something.
We should have Jeffrey on the podcast.
Yes, we should.
That would be interesting.
We should also have pizza.
We should have pizza.
Actually, we had pizza yesterday. This is going to be a very disjointed podcast.
Yeah.
Hopefully people don't hate us.
Like I said, I just don't think we're that interesting of people.
Well, I think the big thing is just we're both kind of tired. Well, you shouldn't be tired. You got 10 hours of sleep. If anything, you should be tired because you got too much sleep. And for me, like I said, I barely got a nap in. But then also, I'm trying to make sure that I keep talking so there's not like dead silence for too long. What are you doing? Don't snap your fingers that close to the camera, you butthole.
Oh.
Speaking of childhood memories, does last night count as childhood?
No.
Oh, because I spanked you with a belt.
Yeah.
I was very tired.
That was interesting, and I was okay with it because I didn't think it was gonna hurt. I just thought it would be funny, but it actually really fucking hurt. I'm like, oh wow. I feel bad for anybody that had this.
I think I hit you slightly above the butt.
Yeah,
I think the belt was just like in some weird way.
It was like right between my butt and my back.
Okay.
You
Do you remember when you were younger, and you used to like you'd like have, you didn't own the toy dolls or whatever, but like nieces and nephews or whatever would own toy dolls, and you'd like pat their back, burp the baby, or burp the baby, and then you'd flip them around and start hitting them in the crotch, fart the baby.
Yeah, I was a weird kid.
I think you were dropped on your head several times. I think you did it to yourself.
Fart the baby.
Okay.
Fart the baby.
Fart the baby, and I don't know why you hit it in the crotch.
Well, because it's right in front of the butt.
So, you don't hit a baby in the back of the head to make them burp. Maybe you would, but I mean, normal people.
No, I wouldn't.
I think you would.
No, I wouldn't. Okay, look, I may be an idiot, but I'm not that dumb.
I think you are. I remember early Homestar Runner memories. I remember we started watching Homestar Runner in like 2003, which is so weird that that's a decade and a half ago.
Wow.
But I remember Justin, our older brother Justin, doing a strong bad impression and making you cry.
Well, I was like 4, wasn't I?
You were in a stroller, so I almost called it a wheelchair. I couldn't think of
a
it.
wheelchair.
You were in a wheelchair, so that should tell you.
A wheelchair at 4 years old.
Yes.
Because he was dropped on his head. And his legs.
Okay.
And everywhere.
Yes. You were dropped down the stairs.
Yeah, Dad threw me down. No, he didn't actually do that. Don't worry.
One time you threw, when we installed, we lived in this old house. It was like 100 years old. I mean, I don't think it was like exactly 100. It was probably more like 70 or 80 years old. But as a kid, I used to say it was 100 years old because that sounds more cool. But it was a whole bunch of things. Like it was just before we bought it, it was a church. Just before it was a church, it was like a hotel type thing, and then it was like a bar and grill at one point. It was like a convenience store, but there were 2 levels to it, and there was no staircase to get to the second floor. You had to actually go outside, climb up on the roof, and then go in a door. Otherwise, there was like a hole cut in the roof in the kitchen that you could climb up on the china cabinet and get up. So of course we eventually put in the staircase. I remember it was that would have been 1999, because I remember the people who were there helping build the staircase, talking about Y2K. But anyway.
So I must have like just been born then.
Yeah, you were pretty little.
Because I was born in July '99, so
yeah,
I couldn't have been any older than 5 months.
But when we put the stairs in at first, it looked like it was like a skeleton of a staircase, I guess is the best way I can think to describe it, because it was like, you see like those apartment buildings where they have like the balconies and then the stairs that lead up to another balcony or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? Maybe it's not an apartment building.
I think so.
Like in big cities, whatever. The staircase where it's just platforms basically that you step on. It's basically like somewhere between a ladder and a staircase. You know what I'm talking about? It's like a frame that was kind of what this staircase was like. And then there was just like this big rectangle cut in the roof of the bottom floor, which would have been the floor of the top floor. You know what I mean? And at first we didn't have any hand railings up at the top of the stairs, like where there was that big hole cut in it. And I remember, like when we first got the stairs put in and everything, we were throwing a party upstairs. The kids were, well, Dad was downstairs doing something, and Mom was gone at the time. I don't know where she was for sure, but
So
we had popcorn in one of Mom's like antique bowls. I think it might have been like one of Grandma's bowls, or it might have even, because I know Grandpa, you know, on Mom's side of the family, Mom's dad was into pottery. You know, I know he made like mugs and stuff. I almost wonder if maybe it was like a bowl he made or something. I barely remember this. I just remember that it was like a very priceless bowl or whatever. It was filled full of popcorn.
And I broke it.
And we had it like in a rocking chair over like by the you know, the hole in the floor where the stairs were. And we weren't paying attention, and you loved rocking chairs, and all of a sudden we heard a shatter because you had ran over to the rocking chair and just threw the bowl out of the rocking chair, and it fell down the stairs and shattered. And whatever Dad was doing, it was something very tedious, and he was pissed. Like, I mean, you know, Dad's really kind of mellowed out now that he's getting older, but I don't know if you remember for sure, but he used to have a pretty bad temper at times.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't like abusive or anything like that, but he could get pissed off. And I remember he just, you know, was like, "What happened? Who threw the bowl down there?" And then for some reason, Abby, our sister Abby, was like, "I'm pretty sure Letha did that." And so Letha got in trouble, even though you clearly did it.
Hang on though, just one question.
What?
If I was 5 months old, how did I run over to the chair and lift up the bowl and throw it?
You weren't 5 months old. Like I said, when we were building,
we were building the stairs.
We were putting the stairs in. It was before Y2K, and I think, you know, this could have been like months after the stairs were put in, and it might have been that we were just throwing a party upstairs because we cleaned that room right up at the top of the stairs, and not because the stairs were just put in. But I just remember that I remember being up there and just hearing this loud, like, shatter downstairs and just looking over and just seeing you rocking in the chair where the popcorn was.
What? Oh, man.
You were probably just barely old enough to walk. Come to think of it, you know, thinking back at some of the stuff we did in Pinewood just terrifies me. The fact that staircase, like I said, there was a fucking hole in the floor. It's like 10 feet down, and you were like a year old, maybe, running around upstairs.
Why didn't we have handrails up there to begin with?
I don't know. And also, there was one side at the hole that was, you know, well, okay, so let me just try to paint a picture. You're walking up the stairs, and up at the top of the stairs, you look up, and there's just this big hole up in the roof where the second floor is, right? And so on the left-hand side, when you get up to the top of the stairs, the left-hand side, there's a good 4 or 5 feet before you get to the wall. On the right-hand side, there's only like, you know, a foot or maybe a foot and a half before you get to the wall. And so there's like this short little strip that runs all the way down that side of the wall where it's only like a foot and a half wide or whatever. We never put a hand railing up on that side. So, and we used to keep boots up there. And I vividly remember, like, sometimes I would have, my boots would somehow end up, like, all the way off on the one side. So if I wanted to get my boots, I had to climb over all kinds of boots on this one little 1.5 foot wide strip of floor where there's, on the right side, left side of me there's a wall, on the right side of me there's a hole that leads like 10 feet down, and there's a staircase in it. Maybe it wasn't quite 10 feet, but it was pretty tall. It was probably a good 6 or 7 feet. I think it was probably close to 10 feet from floor to ceiling on the bottom floor. But anyway, I remember we would also, before we put the hand railing up there, I can remember sitting on the edge of that, like the very end of it, like, you know, where it'd be the farthest drop, and just like dangling my feet over the edge, you know, which I would have been like 5 or 6 years old.
It doesn't sound safe.
It doesn't sound safe at all. Also, I remember me and Letha used to, we we were pretending to reenact a scene from The Swan Princess. The scene is just like they get like this message sent to them through like an arrow or whatever. Like they shoot an arrow with a message on it and they get the message. But we had a dart that we stuck a sheet of paper over, and I would stand like on the landing of the staircase, you know, like the base of the staircase, sort of. I would stand there, and Letha would be up at the top with the dart, and she would drop it. I would move out of the way, and it would fall down. I'd pick it up, and I'd throw it back up, and it would stick to the roof, like right where, you know, because the roof was kind of slanted, like at where Letha would have been standing, like right above the landing at the top of the staircase, and it would stick in the roof. And then she'd drop it, I'd move out of the way, it'd fall down into the landing, I'd pick it up, throw it back up again. We just went back and forth, and thinking back on that.
Okay, I thought this was actually going to go somewhere where somebody got hurt.
No. That's the weirdest part about all this, is that in that house, we lived in that house until I was 10. I never got hurt. Like, the worst thing that ever happened to me in terms of injuries was I remember jumping around and running on the couches, and there was like a couch cushion that was kind of half sitting on and half off, and when I jumped on that, put my foot on it, my foot slid off the cushion, you know, because the cushion slid off the couch, and I banged my knee on like a metal part of the couch and got a very small scar there, which I don't even think is still visible.
I was going to say, is that still visible?
No, I don't think so. But like I said, that's the worst thing that ever happened in that house to me in terms of an injury.
Yeah, I mean, we only lived there until I was like 3 or 4, so I think we moved out of there when I was like 4. So I barely remember any of it.
Yeah, you would have been close to 5 though, because we moved out in April, so it's probably like right around the exact year, like the exact anniversary to the day. We moved in 2004.
Okay,
April 2004.
So that explains why that's around the point where I can start remembering things.
Yeah.
Like, I remember specifically, like, childhood fears, like stuff that scared you as a kid. We could talk about stuff like that.
We could. Do you have anything specific?
Oh, Gollum.
Well, that wasn't Pinewood, though.
Well, I know.
We should specify. This house we're talking about, this was in a very small town called Pinewood, Minnesota. If you want to Google search it, for whatever reason. I don't know why you'd want to do that.
We don't live there anymore, so you're not going to find us, you creeps.
Yes. But, oh man, there's so much stuff I could talk about Pinewood related. Like, Pinewood used to be like a decent sized town with like a bank, and like I said, the place we lived in used to be like a convenience store, and then like a hotel and whatever, and a church and all that stuff. But there was like a bank that was not too far from us, and there was like this fire in the 70s or something like that took out most of the town.
I do vaguely remember there was like this old beat up building near where we lived. There was like not much left, just like some...
It wasn't a building, that was the vault of a bank.
It
was just like this small brick structure that was like, had 2 layers to it. We used to play in there, which in hindsight, not a good idea probably.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay.
Actually,
I remember playing in there.
If you want to, like if you do want to Google Pinewood, Minnesota, there's a highway that runs through it. You could probably find the buildings we're talking about pretty easily on there. The house we lived in, it's been renovated since we moved out and somebody bought it. But it's a pretty big house, like in the middle of town. Or it's not really a town, it's more like a highway with some buildings.
Does anybody even still live in that house anymore?
I'll get to that eventually. I don't know for sure, actually, I guess. But I'll get to stuff about what happened to it when we moved out. But anyway, like across like a dirt road from there, there's like this small it looks like a really fat chimney, basically. It's like this brick structure, and that's what I'm talking about right now. That was the old bank, like we called it. Even though, like I said, I'm pretty sure that was like the vault of the bank. At least that's what I had been told later on. I don't know for sure. For all I know, it might not even be a bank. It might just be some brick building.
Yeah, I don't know. I just remember there being like a brick building and going over there and playing sometimes.
Yeah, and I remember there was, and it wasn't brick. I should specify. It was cement.
Cement. Okay.
Because it was, I don't know for sure. I'm not into construction or whatever, so I don't know for sure how this works. But I know that they, when they make cement structures, like they have these metal poles that run through or whatever. Like if you've ever seen broken cement, there'll be like metal. You can see like metal poles sort of running through it. Mm. But I remember one of the metal poles had been like the way that it was broken, it like bent down and was dangling down, and there was like this. It sort of looked like a pendulum. Like there was a chunk of cement still stuck to the end, and we used to swing on that. Yeah.
That part I don't remember.
Well, I mean, of course you wouldn't remember.
I just remember going in it a few times. There was like a hole in it that we could go through or something.
There was an entryway.
An entryway.
There were two. Like I said, there was two layers. There was a bottom layer, which, for the most part, like, it was slightly underground, but not too far underground. I think as a kid, I could get in, I think, without even ducking, for the most part. And then there was like a top layer. The top layer was the one we used to go in most of the time. There's a lot of, from what I remember, a lot of graffiti in there, mostly probably from our family. Like, I'm pretty sure Zach and Abby put like a heart with their names in it or whatever.
Huh.
But then the bottom layer, for the bottom layer, like the ground, I don't know if it was dirt, like if maybe that's the way the structure was made, so that like that was not actually a lower layer, it was just like that was actually the ground underneath the building. Actually, I guess that doesn't really make sense now that I say that out loud. But anyway, there was dirt in the floor for the bottom layer, and we used to for like one summer. I think it was Justin. By the way, if we're mentioning just random names of random people, chances are those are siblings. We have a lot of siblings. There's 11 of us kids in the family, so.
And a lot of them are married.
What does that have to do with anything?
So then there's a lot more people in the family that we might mention.
Yeah, but they weren't married back then.
Yeah, but you did mention Zach and Abby.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway, I think it was Justin started this club. I wish I could remember what it was called, but it had a name to it. And what they did for like a summer was went around this. I guess I'll just say went around town, even though basically we had like this dirt road that kind of ran around the back of our house. I think if you followed along it went maybe half a mile, if even that. And like there was a house back there. There were a few small houses here and there scattered throughout. But anyway, kind of go around. We used to call it the block. That was what we called that dirt road that circled around the back of the house. Well, it wasn't like the back of the house. Like I just said, you followed along. It was a decent length, but Justin and like I think Jordan and Abby and Letha would go around and pick up cigarette butts, because the guy who lived back there, like the house I was just mentioning, like at the behind our house, a little ways behind our house, connected by the dirt road, we had a neighbor. His name was Pete, and he was a heavy smoker. And I'm obviously the cigarette butts weren't all his, but it's a small town, one of those places where people would drive by and just throw a cigarette butt out the window, or whatever. So there was no shortage of cigarette butts to pick up, and they'd collect I think they had like ice cream buckets. Like they'd collect like an ice cream bucket full of cigarette butts, and then they buried it in the dirt floor of the bank.
What?
I don't know why. I guess they had the right idea to pick up all the cigarette butts, but then they just bury it, so...
That's... okay.
That's okay.
So... anything you remember with involving me? Anything else? Because I'm interested in hearing more about that stuff. Because that's...
You ran outside one time when nobody was watching you. This just reminded me of, speaking of the bank, you ran outside one time, like I said, when no one was watching you, when everyone looked away or whatever, and I guess by the sounds of it, you were just running just as fast as you could away from the house.
How old was I?
You would have been like 2, like if even that. Like you were probably just barely old enough to walk, and like I guess we eventually found you down by the bank.
What was I doing down there?
Running.
That was it?
I didn't find you, so I didn't see you, but that's just the way I always imagined it. It's just you left the house and you're just running
around?
Running in one direction or something. I don't know. I don't even know. One time I got in trouble for chasing cars.
Why were you chasing cars?
It's not like that. It's not exactly like that. I just thought that'd sound funnier. But it was such a small town. We had dial-up internet, which was... we had a shitty computer with dial-up internet.
I didn't even know we had internet at all at that time.
Yeah, it was... We basically just used it for emails and MySpace.
MySpace, that was a thing?
Yes. That was the big new thing at the time. And then we had, in terms of TV, I mentioned this in another podcast at one point, but we had like a 3-foot tall antenna that sat on the roof of the house, and we'd have to go up and manually spin it in order to get in different channels. We always got in PBS crystal clear, but we couldn't watch Arthur, so no, we could. There was just like one period of time where we didn't. But anyway, there was not a whole lot to do, basically. And cars would drive by pretty infrequently. You know, you could probably watch the highway that ran through town, quote unquote town, and there would be maybe 2 or 3 dozen cars would drive by in a day. And so I can remember being outside, just kind of playing around in the front yard, which, by the way, the front yard, well, I'll get to that in a minute. There's some stuff I can explain there, but just kind of playing around in the front yard, and then I'd see a car coming. I would just kind of stand waiting by the edge of the road, just kind of watching them, and as I drove by, I would run down the side of the road as fast as I could, trying to keep up with the car, and would be waving at them, because that's just what I would do. And I got in trouble for that, for some reason.
Okay.
Because, well, I guess what the logic that Mom gave me was that what if they decided to turn? But where would they turn? I don't know, I never really understood that. I wasn't running on the road. I was on the side of the road. Like, I wasn't even on the asphalt or whatever. Or tar. Is it asphalt? It's asphalt, isn't it? Yeah, it's asphalt.
I'm gonna kick your asphalt.
Yes, don't say that bad word, you shithead.
Okay, motherfucker.
Okay. But I guess I should mention the front yard before I forget about that. The front yard, because this was, like I said, like a public building at one point. This house was built as a public building. There was a sidewalk that ran in front of the house that I guess we owned the sidewalk. I don't really know for sure. But then after the sidewalk, we didn't have like grass and whatever in our front yard. It was gravel because it was like a parking lot in our front yard.
Huh.
And I do remember occasionally we would get people who would stop by and like just walk in without knocking because they thought it was still a restaurant or whatever. But we had a pretty good sized backyard and junk.
What are some of the... So there were people that just walked in?
Once or twice. Someone would just walk in and be like, hey, what's for dinner tonight? Chili? Oh, this isn't a restaurant, is it? No. Okay, sorry.
So yeah, I'm assuming it used to be a restaurant at one point then.
Well, like I said, it used to be a bunch of different things. I remember we had old pictures we had pictures from like the 60s or something like that, black and white photographs of like the town before the fire, and it was so surreal seeing, like right across the street from us was this like gray kind of boxy building, and with a sidewalk running in front of it that was converted into a house as well, like ours was. But I guess that used to be like a store or a restaurant or a hotel or something. We had like a big, like, 7-Up clock that looked like something you'd see in like a bar or something like that. And I don't know for a fact if this was the case, but I always kind of thought that was something that was... Actually, no. I know for sure it was, unless I'm completely misremembering, I'm almost 100% positive that was something that was left over from when it was a bar and grill or whatever. So I'm pretty sure in one of the old photographs it actually had the 7-Up clock in it. But yeah, it was such a weird house, but it was such a cool house. There was never a dull moment. It was kind of overrun with mice and spiders and shit, and bats.
Did they all shit?
Well, they have to.
Well, you said it was overrun with mice and spiders and shit.
You know what I mean, you shithead.
No.
I remember there was... it was such a cool place growing up. Like, I'm... Like I said, thinking back on it, it just seems like such a... not a very good place to raise kids. Like, I remember we even used to joke... Just us kids, I don't think Mom and Dad were in on this, but I remember we used to joke, don't let the social workers find out about this. But, like I said, it was probably, in hindsight, it was probably not a very good place to grow up, but I'm really glad I grew up there because I fucking loved it. What else was there? I used to sleepwalk.
Yeah, that's right. Didn't you, like...
Don't spoil this again, Logan.
Okay.
Don't be
Tell
spoiling
the story then.
Well, I used to sleepwalk. There's just something that like runs in the family with weird sleep habits. Like even you, like when you went to bed last night, or technically early this morning, like within 20 minutes you were sound asleep snoring very, very loudly. Snoring is one thing, like Mom and Dad snore, and they snore really, really loudly, like to the point where you would think that it's like cars passing by sometimes in the middle of the night. Jordan used to talk in his sleep. I'm sure you remember this story about Justin coming home from work one time, and Jordan like waking up, well, like sitting up, he wasn't awake, and just staring at him. Jordan? Huh? Are you awake? Yeah. So you're gonna remember all this in the morning? Yes. How many kids do you have? Plenty. They're all out in the car. Or at least that's what that was the story Justin told. In hindsight, he could have completely made that up just to be funny, but I wouldn't put it past wouldn't put it past Jordan considering how much he would talk in his sleep. But I used to walk in my sleep. I'm pretty sure I snore. I don't know for sure, and I think I would talk in my sleep. I maybe still do. But I used to walk in my sleep. And one night, it couldn't have been too late at night because I know Mom and Dad were still up. And they were like sitting in the living room. And I guess, like, I heard the story, when I woke up the next day. But I guess I walked out, walking in my sleep. Walked over to, we had this wood burning stove. I think I mentioned this in the Hoffy episode. I mentioned this in an episode before. It was basically like this big... like I think it's called a barrel drum. Like it's like a big barrel basically made out of metal essentially. It has a pipe running up to a big gigantic brick chimney, and that's how we would heat the entire house, was with that one wood stove. So it got very cold in the winter, needless to say. But anyway, I walked over to it. It was I think it was like spring or fall or something like that. It wasn't quite so bad that it, like middle of winter, we always had the wood burning stove running. But I guess like I walked over to it, Mom and Dad were watching me open it up, and they thought that I was just gonna like start a fire or try to start a fire or whatever. They're like, Jalen, what are you doing? and then I started zipping down my pants. And then Dad's like, no, Jalen, the bathroom's over there. It's just the bathroom's over there. Just go to the bathroom if you need to pee. Oh, okay. And then I started walking in the opposite direction. And no, Jalen, it's right over there. And then I just walked back to my room. And I just remember waking up the next day, laying in my dirty clothes pile covered in pee, with my pants zipped down.
Okay, it's a bit better than I remembered it being from my memory.
Yeah, that wood burning stove though, I remember. I think, yeah, you, as a kid, you threw a sweater on it. Because you wanted to see what would happen.
Whose sweater?
I think it was your sweater. You just wanted to watch it burn, I guess.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
But I remember, like one time we spilled sugar on it one time, and the whole house smelled like cotton candy for a day. One time I think I threw silly putty on it, and that left a stain that never came out. It was sitting on, it wasn't just sitting on the floor. It was sitting on. I honestly think that it was a street sign. That was the story I remembered hearing, was that Uncle Conrad took a street sign and put the stove on top of that. Because it was like this big, like a yield sign or something like that. Actually, I think a yield sign is never mind, that's a triangle. It was like a square shape or whatever, like a diamond or whatever. I never saw the other side of it, so I don't know if it was actually like a street sign or if it was just like a similar shape and size or what exactly it was. But I wouldn't put it past Uncle Conrad to do something like that. But I just remember, because of that, it wasn't bolted to the floor or anything like that, so it would kind of, there was like a little gap between the floor and the sign or whatever. And I just remember one day being cold and running over to the stove to warm up by the stove, and then running my foot into the lip of the sign or whatever, and tripping and falling over and burning my hands on the stove. And I had like these massive, I don't know why, but for some reason I just vividly remember sitting there watching Mary-Kate and Ashley staring at my hands with these giant blisters on them.
Why were you watching Mary-Kate and Ashley?
Letha used to watch Mary-Kate and Ashley all the time, and when the TV's on, you just watch it when you're a kid. If you complain, then you have to wash dishes or clean your room or something. So
okay, I see.
We had a black and white TV in my room, to watch TV and to play Super Mario World. I actually remember one time, because we didn't, for a while I guess we didn't have the big antenna for like the main TV in the living room, and that was for the longest time the only color TV in the house. I don't know why we had a house full of black and white TVs. This was like the late 90s. It wasn't like this is like the 60s or something.
I don't know, maybe it was what we could afford at the time.
We probably took the TVs out of the dump, to be honest. We used to go to the dump and take stuff from there. But anyway,
like food.
No, we didn't. We weren't that poor.
I know, it's a joke.
But anyway, we would watch Arthur on a black and white TV and play Super Mario World on a black and white TV. And I remember one day we were in the room that was like mine and Jordan's, and I think maybe yours as well. Actually, no, you would have still been in a crib. But we were in there getting ready to watch TV, getting ready to watch Arthur, and I remember Letha coming in the room, Guys! Justin just bought a brand new color TV, he hooked it upstairs, and we're gonna go watch Arthur in color! We were so fucking pumped that we got to watch Arthur in color. It was a shitty little 13-inch color TV. We had that TV for a long time. I think it just, like within the past 6 or 7 years, I think it was just before.
Wait a minute.
What?
Is it like that little small black color TV?
Yeah, it has like a crack in one corner.
Oh yeah, is that the one that I had for a while?
Probably.
I remember that TV.
But I remember Justin was always buying like the most recent electronics. He bought not a Blu-ray. This would have been way before Blu-ray. DVD player. It was a really shitty DVD player. It was like I don't know for sure when DVD players were invented, but I want to say it was like a really early model. It was that Samsung one. Remember? You know what I'm talking about?
I remember I remember there was a terrible DVD player we had at one point. I don't know if it was the one that you're talking about.
It probably was. But anyway, so he had that color TV. I think I don't know for sure how much he paid for it, but I'd be willing to bet at that time he probably paid like $100 or $200 for it, because that's just what TVs would cost. But yeah, I can remember that was so weird being able to watch Arthur in color. It was amazing.
It's kind of funny in hindsight.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I barely remember. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I can remember ever watching anything on a black and white TV. The color one that we had was in the living room, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that's the only TV I ever remember watching anything on, so that's probably why.
Yeah. Well, and also I think eventually later on we might have got color TVs as well. Like slowly got rid of the black and white ones. Speaking of Arthur, I have an Arthur memory that in hindsight almost sounds like a creepypasta or something like that. It's like, I remember there was this one day where Arthur was on at the same time Recess was on. We got in a couple channels. I don't even know what channel it was, but it played like Disney Channel shows on it. But it also played stuff like it would play Home Improvement and the Woody Woodpecker Show and Garfield and Friends, and then it would play a bunch of like Disney Channel shows. But Recess was on that channel the same time that Arthur was on PBS. And I remember we would always like somebody would be on one of like the black and white TVs or whatever watching one channel while another person was in the living room on the main TV. At this point we had the antenna watching the other channel, and we would see what show is playing what episode, whatever, and if it was an episode we hadn't seen, we'd be like, oh, there's a Recess episode we haven't seen, switch over to that channel or whatever. And I think it was something like I accidentally mentioned that there was a Recess episode we hadn't seen or whatever, and it was one we had seen or something like that. And so in the living room, all I remember for sure is that in the living room, Jordan decided to watch Recess, even though it was an episode we'd seen 100 times before, and Arthur, like I was watching this black and white TV that had no sound for some reason. I think it was either the speakers were broken on it or it was just that shitty of a TV that it didn't have sound. But I was trying to convince him, this is an Arthur episode we haven't seen. He's like, I don't care, I want to watch Recess. Because Jordan was always a dick as a kid. So I watched that episode of Arthur on this black and white TV. I was upstairs alone watching Arthur on a black and white TV with no sound. And the only thing I can remember, and I don't know how much of this is actually in the episode or how much of this is just me misunderstanding it and misremembering it and stuff like that, but I seem to remember the character, I think his name was George. He was like a moose or a deer or something like that. One of the kids at the school in Arthur ended up getting a bloody nose. He had this bloody nose, and Francine saw it, and it made her throw up. And that's all I remember. And like I said, like the way I remember it is just George having like just blood coming out of his nose, not like pouring out like a faucet or whatever, but just like a bloody nose, like visible blood, and Francine throwing up off screen. You didn't see her throw up. You just saw her walking away, and then like kind of like moves her head down out of frame quickly like she's throwing up, and then it just cuts like the janitor mopping up or whatever. But like I said, like that almost seems like some weird, like the beginnings of like a weird creepypasta thing.
And then Arthur had black and red eyes, and he was bleeding out of his eyes.
They were hyper-realistic eyes.
Hyper-realistic eyes. With real blood coming out of the TV.
Yes. Ah, man. I remember... I mean, these aren't really childhood memories of us. These are like childhood memories of me.
Yeah, I haven't said anything, you fuck.
We'll get to that eventually when we moved and you have your childhood memories. But I remember that house... I guess, like I said, it wasn't really a house so much as it was an old building that we were living in. I remember, like, on the second floor, there was, like, a lot of just, like, not really fully finished stuff. Like, for the ceiling, like I said, it would come down in slants. You know, like, if you went all the way over to one wall, it was, like, slanted, and all the way over to the other wall was slanted. And I remember there was, like, exposed insulation. Like, you're supposed to, like, put in, like, it's like I guess, the skeleton of the ceiling, I guess how I describe it. You know, it's like all the beams and everything, and you're supposed to put this insulation in there, and then you're supposed to put another thing over that to cover up the insulation. We didn't have anything covering the insulation other than some plastic wrap in some places. And I remember, like, shortly after we put the stairs in, sleeping up there, and getting up in the middle of the night, go to the bathroom, I went back upstairs, went to bed, and I woke up and I realized that when I went back upstairs and covered back up again, I actually covered up with a sheet of fiberglass insulation, which I guess the best way I can do, or maybe it's not fiberglass insulation, foam insulation or something like that. I think it's made of like fiberglass or something like that. I guess the best way I can think of to describe it is it almost looks like cotton candy. You know, it almost has like fluffy look to it. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
That stuff in the wall that looks like cotton candy.
Basically, and it's yellow. Or at least this stuff was. But I do remember getting, like, sick from that somehow, like breaking out in some sort of weird skin thing from that, and I had to, I had to get some sort of cream that I would put on my skin. And I don't know for sure. I was thinking back on this, like, a few months ago or whatever, and, like, you know, I think I misinterpreted what the doctor told me to do. Because I remember, you know, I put the cream on, like, my arms and my face and everything, and then I would also put it up my nose.
Why did you put it up your nose?
Here's the thing. I think, if I had to guess, I would think that she told me to put it on my nose, and I thought she said up my nose. That's the only thing I can think of, because I'm like, that doesn't make any sense why you put cream up your nose. But
yeah, you definitely misinterpreted her.
I remember, like, you know, I was like 7 at the time, and I remember like, oh, this is kind of fun. I get an excuse to put my fingers up my nose. And I remember Jordan and Letha would make fun of me for that, because I would say, you know, because I was just kind of repeating what the doctors had said, whatever. And I said, you know, the insulation made me break out, except instead of saying break out, I said break down.
Break down.
And so they'd be laughing like, what, I made you break down and cry? I'm like, no, it made me break down and get stuff on my skin. Or whatever. I don't even know what that was. I wonder what that was now that I think about it.
You know, I remember in that house, I'm trying to remember, like, what was it that I said? Because it was like, we were watching Jonah, a VeggieTales movie. And there was the line, like, near the end of the movie, I hate to break up the party. And I would quote that, and you'd say, "Oh, Logan, stop saying that." I'm like, what was they saying? I hate to fuck up the party or something?
What the fuck are you talking about?
I remember, for whatever reason, I remember this specifically. Like, we watched Jonah, and I quoted the line, and you kept saying, "No, don't say that, that's a swear word." I don't know if you were joking, or if I was misquoting it and accidentally saying fuck.
Oh, I thought you said as a kid, you said, oh, what was I saying, right, to fuck up the party?
No, I didn't say that as a kid.
I was going to say, that. No, you never said that.
But I'm curious, I'm like, am I...
I don't remember that at all.
Maybe you weren't there, but for whatever reason, I can remember that, and it's like,
I do remember, and, you know, this, I'm like 99% sure we talked about this before, and it was inevitable that we'd have to get to this eventually, but, you do remember your fear, right? As, like, a 2 or 3-year-old?
The frogs in Cyber Chase?
Why do you have to just jump right to the punchline? Why can't you build up the story, Logan? Yes, you were terrified of frogs. You would wake up one time you woke up screaming in the middle of the night, "The frogs! The frogs!"
And it must have been a short-lived fear, because I don't remember being afraid of frogs.
But anyway, it was because of a Cyber Chase episode. This was kind of like the Arthur episode, where I never got to see that episode again. With the Cyber Chase episode, we never got to see this episode again. It was something like, I think it had something to do with like multiplication or something like that. I just remember there was like Buzz and Delete were sending this frog in after the kids. I don't know if you even remember the characters' names.
I don't, because I was afraid of the show after that.
Oh yeah. Anyway, they were sending this frog in. I don't know. I think it was supposed to be a robot frog or something like that. I don't remember exactly the specifics. I just remember one of the characters. I forget which of the two characters was the stupid one. It's been a long time since I watched that show. But one of them, was supposed to hit the go button, and the other one's like, "No, you didn't hit the go button. You hit the grow button." And it shows like on the map like this sort of visualization of like the frog growing or whatever. And then shows the kids walking around wherever it is they're walking around in, and then they just look up and see this giant frog. And I remember it having fangs. I don't know for sure if it had fangs though, but I just remember you were screaming as if somebody was like ripping your legs out. That's the intensity of your screaming, and you were standing in the middle of the living room, staring at the TV, screaming at the top of your lungs, and you would not shut up and you would not leave the room, and so Mom made us turn off the TV. And we never got to see that episode again. You asshole.
What? Wow. Okay, I don't remember it being that bad. I just remember that it like freaked me out afterward.
And then I remember another thing you were screaming at was Spy Kids 2. But to be fair, that does have some creepy imagery for like little kids like you were. I just remember specifically, it's like for those of you who know Spy Kids 2, it's when they're in the water before they get to the island, and there's like that two-headed sea monster thing pops up behind them, and you were screaming your fucking head off. I think you were probably screaming worse than you were when you saw the frog. And then also we rented like a compilation VHS tape of the Donkey Kong Country TV show, yes. And you were afraid of K. Rool.
It's kind of funny talking about all this, and it's like it's like I've watched horror movies now and they've had little to no effect on me, but I was scared by all this little stuff as a little kid.
Yeah. But I remember, I think it was something like I want to say it was Sunday, and Mom and Dad went to church, and there was something like Jordan was sick, or you were sick, or something like that, and basically it was me, you, and Jordan were staying home from church. Maybe Letha was there too, but Jordan, like, almost sort of forced you to watch it. I mean, you weren't freaking out. I mean, you were freaking out, but you weren't like screaming. He's like, no, look, Logan, it's okay. It's a funny lizard man, or something like that. I don't remember exactly what he was saying. I just remember the scene he was showing you. Because I've been listening to like the compilation of like all the Donkey Kong Country TV show songs like at work and whatever, because there's actually some good songs in there. But I think of that every single time I get to the song. It's I think it's called "The Mirror Never Lies." It's where like DK like gets amnesia or something like that, and K. Rool. I think it's K. Rool.
King K. Rool, the lizard guy.
Well, there's King K. Rool, but then there's also like a pirate in the show.
Okay.
I think it was the pirate actually.
Okay.
Is like sets up like a mirror frame and stands behind it and convinces DK that he's a pirate.
Yeah.
But it was that specific thing.
See, the thing is, I barely remember any of this. I remember freaking out. There was like a scene with Cranky Kong, and I was freaking out about it. I'm assuming that was building up to a K. Rool scene.
And it might have been.
So I was freaking out, and
I mean, Cranky is kind of terrifying. The animation is pretty horrifying.
And Dad had to move me into a different room and put on VeggieTales, so I would stop freaking out.
One of the things that I remember terrifying me as a kid, that unlike you, instead of standing in the middle of the living room screaming at the TV screen, I actually ran out of the room, was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah,
Specifically, Violet Beauregard turning into a blueberry terrified me. And also Augustus Gloop getting sucked up into the pipe. Because I always thought too much into things, and I would imagine Augustus Gloop suffocating in the pipe and stuff like that. I mean, it's terrifying. Imagine getting sucked up in a chocolate pipe and suffocating.
I mean, I never thought of it that way when I watched the movie.
Well, I did.
What else were you afraid of as a kid?
Maybe we should save that stuff for later. Because I still want to make like a sort of like childhood trauma type of video, kind of like why I missed it. I wouldn't call it that, but just kind of talking about stuff that creeped me out as a kid.
Well, I remember some specific fears of mine, and in hindsight, I'm kind of surprised I was afraid of them. I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about.
No.
So, Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, that was later in childhood.
Yeah, but this is like some of my earlier childhood memories.
Here's the weird thing about that, though. If you remember correctly, you watched the first Lord of the Rings, and you were fine. You watched the Two Towers, and you were fine. It wasn't until Jordan was playing the Third Age, and you can unlock like cutscenes from the movie, and there was a clip from the transformation scene of Smeagol turning into Gollum. Specifically the part where like he closes his eyes and they're like regular human eyes and he opens them and they're like the big Gollum eyes.
And for whatever reason, after I saw that, I was terrified of Gollum until I was like 11. And then
it was later than that. You refused to watch Lord of the Rings until the Hobbit movie came out.
So I was like 12 when I finally decided to watch them.
Yeah.
But still, in hindsight, I don't... Like, when I finally watched the Lord of the Rings movies, and I got to that point, I'm like, why did that scare me? But nothing else did?
Well, this was kind of a thing that I always kind of thought of, is that I guess, like, if you really think about it, he kind of almost sort of looks vaguely like amphibian or whatever, almost frog-like, and I was like, I wonder if there's like some sort of carryover between your fear of frogs and your fear of Gollum.
But I wasn't afraid of frogs at that point anymore.
I know, I'm just saying, that's like your evolution of fear.
And, I remember specifically, it didn't scare me at first. I just remember, maybe I was scared of it at first, but like I didn't think I was.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until later that night.
Yes, I remember. I remember you, Mom and Dad have always, I guess they don't so much anymore, but I remember as a kid they always, at night, they would play like Scrabble or Yahtzee. They'd kind of go back and forth between the two. I think now they just like watch TV or whatever.
Yeah, basically.
But like they were playing Scrabble or Yahtzee or whatever, and then I guess you came out like totally pale white, shaking, like as if you had just been outside in the middle of winter for an hour or something like that, just like shaking and shivering. You're like, it's kind of cold, can I have an extra blanket? And we weren't allowed to watch Lord of the Rings around you anymore.
Yeah.
Well, Lexi was afraid of the Ents.
The what?
The Ents.
The Ents.
The Ents.
The Ents.
The trees.
The trees. Okay, it's been a while since I've watched the movies, and I never read the books, so... it's been a few years. Actually, I think 2013 or 14 was the last time I actually watched them.
Actually, yeah, that's right. We watched the extended... actually, you didn't watch the last one with me, I don't think.
Yeah, I did.
Maybe I'm thinking of something different.
We watched all three of them extended.
Anyway, do you want to talk about any of the nightmares that you had? Your vivid nightmares you can remember?
The only one I can remember off the top of my head is, like, I wasn't in it. No human, no person, no animal was in it. It was just in our room. Because at this point, me, you, and Jordan shared a room.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just this coat. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it was like from my perspective or something. It just like was like moving into the closet or something, and then it like jumped out at me, and then I woke up.
The coat came out of the closet and scared you. You homophobe.
and so I was afraid of closets.
I remember that, and this was when we were living in a different. Well,
yeah, we were living in a trailer park.
Yeah, we lived in Pinewood, and then until I was 10, and Logan was almost 5, and then we moved to a small trailer park, which is like 5-6 miles away from where we live now. We lived there for like 2 years, and then we moved into the town where we're living now. But this was when we were in the trailer park, and you were terrified of that closet. I remember that now.
Yeah, and It's weird because it's like you'd think that would make me afraid of coats, but no, it made me afraid of closets.
Yeah. But I was thinking more specifically, I guess maybe that wasn't a nightmare. I'm confusing your weird Bigfoot dream with one of Lexi's nightmares.
What weird Bigfoot? Oh, that see that dream. It's like that was an interesting dream, and this was a bit more recent because I woke up being creeped out, but then I thought about it for like 3 seconds. I'm like, that was a fucking weird dream. Yeah. I didn't think that to myself, obviously, but
well, yeah.
I remember thinking it was weird, and it's like
that was a heckin' weird dream.
Because it was one of those things where it's like it creeped me out until I woke up, and then I realized how dumb the dream actually was.
Yeah, that seems to be like the most common type of nightmares I get, or like things that like creep me out when I'm asleep, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh, that's stupid. Why would that be scary? But yeah, Lexi had a nightmare one time where Jordan got struck by lightning and his feet grew really big, and she was that terrified her.
That sounds like a plot to like some TV show episode or something.
A bad TV show.
Yeah.
Like an adult TV show. It's for bad. It's not for kids.
It's not for kids. I remember this wasn't really a nightmare, but it was a dream I had involving Gollum. Where he came out of our room and I was freaking out and he was like, "Don't be scared," or something like that. And then I woke up.
Was that after you got over your fear of Gollum, or before?
See that kind of
maybe it was your subconscious trying to get you to not be afraid of Gollum.
Could be,
but
see, the thing is, it's like the point where I was like terrified of Gollum. I think that one lasted only like a few years. It's like
terrified.
Okay, here's the thing. I wasn't afraid of Gollum anymore. What I was afraid of was watching the movies and rebirthing my fear of Gollum. That was what it was.
But I mean, when we moved out of the trailer park to your current house, you were terrified of the basement for the longest time. Because of Gollum.
Oh, yeah.
I remember I specifically remember one of the things I tried to tell you to get over is...
Wait a minute.
I told you, just imagine Bob and Larry beating up Gollum and then throwing him in a garbage can.
Wait a minute.
What
I was afraid of the basement because of Gollum?
Yes.
That doesn't even make sense.
You were afraid of thinking of Gollum when you were all alone in a dark basement.
Okay.
Anyway, when I mentioned, that it's a bad show, it's not for kids, or whatever I said, reminded me of just some random fact that I remember when I used to think that R-rated movies were just when I was a kid and I thought R-rated movies were just bad movies in general. I used to make fun of it and say it's rated R for retards. Because retards used to be an acceptable insult.
Yeah.
You can't really say that anymore.
You can if you're Chris Reagan.
Oh, that's
Chris Reagan. Chris Reagan can get away with it.
Chris Reagan.
Speaking
of Reagan,
how far are we going? How far does?
We're going all the way. Speaking of Reagan, I remember there was this one guy.
Jalen,
what?
I was gonna ask what year do we end this at?
Tuesday. Anyway,
okay.
I don't know. We're just gonna keep going on until we run out of interesting stories, I guess. Which we probably won't, but when we run out of interesting stories or we feel like we've gone on too long. But speaking of raking, I remember there was this guy that Dad knew. I don't remember why, but I remember his name. And normally I guess I wouldn't give out last names or whatever. I don't really know why, but I just wouldn't. But he just had such a weird, just an interesting name. And an almost menacing sounding name, like a cartoon villain. His name was Dennis Kilstadius. And I remember the last name Kilstadius because I remember Jordan saying that he thought it was Killed Stadius when he was a kid or something like that.
Dennis Killed Stadius.
I don't think I ever really met him, so I don't think he was I don't think he acted like a cartoon villain. It's just the name. Doesn't that sound like some sort of cartoon villain name?
Kevin Kilstadius.
Dennis Kilstadius.
Dennis.
What the fuck, Logan?
I was trying to say Dennis, but then my mind went to Kevin again.
Kevin. No, Dennis. Devin. But anyway, he had a pretty good sized yard that he would talk to Dad and then get me, Letha, and Jordan. By the way, Letha is my older sister, older than me by like 2 years, and then Jordan is my older brother, older than me by like, I think 5 years. I think he was born in '89. Anyway, he would talk to Dad and get us three to rake his yard. And it was, like I said, it was a pretty good sized yard. But the worst thing was, it wasn't leaves, they were pine needles, which do not rake easily. And I remember we would spend like an entire afternoon raking Dennis Kilstadis' yard for $10.
Okay. That's all?
That's all.
That's
only $10, unless you mean that's all for the story.
Yeah.
I do remember going into his house to pee one time, and he had this weird, creepy statue.
He was just, sounds like a creepy guy.
Well, I think what it was, actually, I think it was like some sort of like novelty, like you see like those like 3 foot tall Yoda statues or something like that. I think it was something like that. It was like some sort of like old lady witch type thing. It might have even been like a Halloween decoration.
Yeah.
And I just remember, because I remember Jordan, like before I went inside to pee, Jordan's like, oh, there's this really creepy statue in there. And so it kind of creeped me out. But yeah, I hated raking that yard because, like I said, pine needles do not rake easily, and we had to get it like spotless, and it was only $10.
Speaking of Halloween,
what?
We could talk about how weird we were about Halloween growing up.
You mean about how we weren't allowed to go trick or treating?
Yeah, I only ever went trick or treating like a few times.
The first time I ever went trick or treating, I was 16, and that was the only time I ever went trick or treating. But I remember I had a fever, and I still went because I'm like, we never got to go trick or treating, and now we are. I'm going to go trick or treating. But to be fair, back in Pinewood, we didn't have many neighbors, and we would get our house egged frequently. I mean, not frequently, but I remember it a few times. And also, I remember hearing stories about how there were some shady people hanging around sometimes. It's a very wooded area, hence the name Pinewood. That's another thing, actually. Growing up there were like no trees that had leaves. There was I think the neighbor had one in his yard, and I remember as a kid, I always wanted to see a leaf tree, like change colors in autumn or whatever. And now there's hardly any pine trees around here. I mean, I'm sure there are more than I realize, but that's just a weird fact that I didn't need to be brought up.
But even when we moved to the trailer park.
Well, the trailer park, there was, we had kind of the opposite problem of not enough people around. We had too many people around, and there were some weird fucking people there.
That's true. Do
you remember our neighbor, Hunter's dad? Hunter the Dick?
I don't remember his dad.
And by the way, that wasn't his nickname or anything. I'm just saying, Hunter's a dick. Or he was a dick as a kid.
But
his dad, Mike, he would yell and yell really loud. You could hear him. If you were he could be in his house with his doors closed, and you could be in your trailer with the doors closed and everything, and you'd still hear him yelling really loudly. And I remember he got into a screaming match with one of the other neighbors at one point. And I want to say somebody had to call the cops because they were being so loud, and I think one of them threatened to cut off the other guy's head and throw it in the dumpster.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I can in hindsight, I completely understand why. I mean, nothing like that ever happened, but still, I can understand not wanting to let your kids be out and about with those types of neighbors.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, Hunter was not only a dick, he was also weird. Speaking of the dumpster, I just remembered something. I remember he went dumpster diving one time and found half a bottle of Mountain Dew, and he drank it.
Why did he drink it?
Because he was fucking stupid. I think he was just kind of an attention whore, so he would just kind of do whatever it took to get people to like him, I guess.
I think I saw him a few years ago. He seems to have calmed down now.
Well, I imagine he would have now that he's an adult. I mean, at that time he would have been 8 or 9. Yeah, I think he's 2 years younger than me. maybe only 1 year. Yeah.
So
yeah, I remember the first time we met him. Me and Jordan were inside, and Jordan was playing Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic on his Xbox, and I just remember Lexi came in, and it's like, "Hey Jordan, there's a 9-year-old boy outside who wants to play with you."
Okay.
And yeah, and that was Hunter. And Hunter used to say that his first memory of you was you walking around with a stick saying, "I'm Moses."
Okay.
Yep.
Didn't he? If I do remember that now. It's like, did he call me Moses or something because of that?
I think he did. And I think he convinced you one time that leaves are spinach, and so you ate a leaf off the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I asked her, is spinach leaf? And yeah, they're basically like leaves.
I think I asked her, "Is spinach leaf?"
Asked Mom, I mean. Or someone in the family, if it was like leaves, and then I tried it.
You remember Invisible Boy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, here's there's going to be a couple different layers to this story. But I remember this was in the trailer park. I was sitting out on the porch, and Logan was talking to me or whatever. And Amanda, our oldest sister, was inside, and she was just kind of messing with Logan. And it's like, "Oh, I don't see anybody out there. Must be an invisible boy." And so then Logan had like this imaginary friend, Invisible Boy. And I remember, I think the main reason I remember this is because when I was a kid, I'm not kidding, I used to think that imaginary friends were demonic.
Did you think they were literal demons or something?
Yes, I did. Because I can remember Jordan and Letha telling stories about imaginary friends who turned out to be demons or ghosts or whatever. And I think I think the way I remember it is that Mom told us that we weren't allowed to have imaginary friends, but in hindsight, probably what happened was that she told Jordan and Letha to stop telling those stories or something like that, and I just interpreted that as stop having imaginary friends, and because I thought imaginary friends were literal demons. And so I never told you that because I didn't want to freak you out, but I was always trying to get you to stop talking to Invisible Boy.
I didn't actually think he was real.
I know. But yeah, that's, I don't think I ever told you that story until now. And
Logan, Invisible Kid is a demon.
I would have never told you that. Otherwise, you would have freaked the fuck out.
Oh, there's a demon in the house.
Jalen told me.
Jalen, stop freaking out, Logan.
And I remember, I think we talked about this with Schaeferless Productions about how I was terrified of stories of demonic Furbies. Oh no, it was Cabbage Patch Kids or Cabbage Patch Dolls. Because I remember thinking, why would you make up stories about demonic Cabbage Patch Dolls when there's already Furbies, which are basically demonic already? I didn't think that as a kid. I'm just saying. I'm saying that now. But yeah, that's the thing that freaked me out the most as a kid were those stories. It was one of our cousins at a family reunion. I don't even remember what the stories were. I just remember something about demon-possessed Cabbage Patch Dolls, and it scared the fuck out of me. I was terrified and couldn't sleep for one night.
I'm trying to think of other childhood fears because it's all I can really think of was the frogs in Gollum.
I remember I guess this isn't so much a fear as it is just being grossed out. You didn't want to sit in chairs that people farted in.
Yes.
And I remember we used that to our advantage sometimes. If you were sitting in a spot we wanted, to be like, "Oh, Logan, I farted in that chair yesterday." You would jump up, run over to another chair or whatever.
Did you just say meme?
What?
Meme.
No.
That's what it
I
sounded
didn't say anything.
It sounded like you said meme. Yeah, I remember that.
And then eventually I'm finally like, Logan, every single chair in the world somebody has farted in at one point in time. And so then you finally, okay. And then you were okay with sitting in chairs that people farted in.
I don't know if this would really count as a childhood fear. Because it was I wasn't scared of it or anything. I mean, I was scared of it, but only one time.
Ha.
It was... So, the VeggieTales episode, Where's God When I'm Scared?
You were afraid of that.
Well, because there was a specific part. It was, Junior's watching the Frank and Celery movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, the weird thing is, this wasn't the first time I'd watched it. But for whatever reason, that one specific time, it freaked me out enough to run out of the room.
Interesting.
Well, only once. Only once. Never before it or after it. Just the one time. And it wasn't even the first time I'd watched it. And I'm just like, thinking about them, like, why? Why did that scare me literally only once and not even the first time I watched it?
Yeah. Huh.
It's weird.
What about, like, Christmas memories? Because I was just thinking of some Christmas memories. I remember... you wouldn't remember this, but I remember Cafe Cola.
Cafe Cola.
They had it at the dollar store in Bemidji. It was, like, half coffee, half cola.
That actually...
And I loved it.
I want to try that.
I looked it up not too long ago. I guess they still make it and sell it in Florida, but that's the only place you can get it for some reason.
Well, we gotta make a trip to Florida.
Yes. We'll meet M. Clement and get some Cafe Cola. But mostly just get some Cafe Cola.
I wonder.
Really?
Because I just realized something.
Huh.
Wasn't there like an episode of Regular Show that had like coffee cola in it and like it was
I don't know. You just marathon Regular Show, so you should be able to tell me.
I think so. I think there was. So I wonder if it was inspired by that.
I don't know. Anyway, but I remember getting a 6-pack of that one year for Christmas, and I remember keeping it in my room, and one night before bed, just cracking one open and drinking a few sips, and putting it down on my shelf and finishing it off the next day. For some reason.
Wouldn't it get flat?
Yes. And I don't know if it was I don't think it was that same year, actually. I think it was a different year. I remember I got like this, because like every year I would ask for Toy Story toys. Like I'm sure most kids did around my age, around that time.
Yeah.
Probably even today. But I remember I got like a Mr. Potato Head. I think it was like a keychain or something like that. Like you would like press his nose and he would say different phrases. And I can remember he said like 5 different phrases and they were like all in the same order. And so I would memorize them and then like I would have conversations with him based on what he would say. The only thing I actually remember is, like I would be talking to him and be like, Mr. Potato Head, I need your help. My chicken won't stop laying eggs. What am I supposed to do? And then press his nose, put a cork in it.
Okay.
That was back in Pinewood, so I guess I was probably 8 or 9.
I remember because there was one Christmas where I got Buzz and Woody toys, and you would pull Woody's string and he would say phrases.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being absolutely convinced that at random he would sometimes say, "You're not my favorite deputy."
That sounds like a horror movie now.
Like, the weird thing is, it's like, for whatever reason, I seem to remember him doing it once. In hindsight, I was probably just told by... Like, I think Lexi told me that he would, probably just because
That sounds like something that Lexi would do. I remember you were like, low-key convinced that toys could come to life.
Yeah.
You would never flat out say that.
I didn't...
But you would say stuff like... so when I left my room, Woody was over here, and when I came back in, he was on the floor. That's because he fell off the table, Logan. Okay, so how did he fall off the table?
See, the thing is, it's like, I don't think it was that I actually thought that they could come
I think
alive.
you just wanted to believe.
Yeah, I wanted to believe it.
Yeah, but I think you were close to convincing yourself. I think. Which, why would you want to believe your toys are alive?
Because then I could have friends. I don't know.
That would be terrible. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night and seeing all your toys just huddled around your bed staring at you. Imagine how terrifying that would be.
I remember you said Logan, if toys could come to life, they would break all your video games, so they don't come to life.
Oh yeah, I do remember saying that. I think it was just because I was just annoyed with you constantly bringing it up. Like, oh, when I left the room, Woody was here, and now he's over here.
They would have destroyed your video games by now because you're playing them too much and not playing with them.
Yeah.
I actually still have some toys. They're like, obviously, like, I don't play with them. They're
Sex toys?
Yes,
okay.
I have 8 dildos.
Okay, anyway.
No, I still have some toys that from my childhood. They're like in boxes somewhere, because I mean, obviously I'm not going to use them now.
Right.
But I should dig some of those up and see if I can remember anything. I think I gave away the Buzz and Woody toys.
Probably. I mean, those were like your favorite toys, and so I'm sure you kind of wore them out.
Oh yeah, I mean Woody had crayon all over his forehead, and we always tried to wash it out.
Yeah.
But we could never get it out.
And of course you lost his hat.
I remember specifically his hat smelled like gluten-free cookies.
What?
I remember this
What the fuck?
because we had gluten-free cookies one time, and they had like this weird smell.
Oh.
And I remember specifically the inside of his hat smelled exactly like that.
I remember. For a point of reference, our youngest brother is autistic, and we would try all these different things. Like different stories of what people did to kind of help autistic kids or whatever. So at one point we tried going gluten-free, and I remember we had the cookies like you were talking about. They didn't have flour in them, of course. They were gluten-free, so they had some sort of it was made out of peas. And because I remember you taste the cookie dough and the peas, if you knew they were peas, you could tell they were peas, but for some reason it had it was like a metallic taste because of the way the peas were.
It was weird. I don't remember those cookies being very good.
Yeah, I mean they weren't the worst thing. I think the worst thing we ever had. Well, we did gluten-free and casein-free at the same time. Is it casein or caseum?
I have no idea.
Milk-free, basically, dairy-free. And I think the worst thing we had was we made a pizza one time with gluten-free, dairy-free pizza, and the cheese. I remember the cheese. Do you remember this?
Go on.
It was like rubber. It had this it looked just fine in the packaging, but when you took it out, it was floating in this sort of brine, and it was this weird rubbery texture. You remember that? Mr. Potato Head type SpongeBob toy you had?
Oh yeah.
Or it was that rubber SpongeBob thing where you could put the pieces in. That's what the cheese consistency was like. And if I'm remembering right, it didn't melt. It didn't melt right, and it was. I mean, even then, I could eat it, but it was not good. I wouldn't want to eat it again. One thing that was surprisingly actually really good, though, is soy ice cream.
I don't remember that. I don't remember what that was like.
From what I remember, it was really, really good, actually. But soy milk isn't that bad. Chocolate soy milk, actually, is really good. I might even prefer chocolate soy milk over regular chocolate milk.
I think during that time period I stopped eating cereal because I couldn't stand soy milk.
Are you sure it wasn't rice milk?
That might have been rice milk.
Because here's the thing, soy milk it's a little bit thicker, I think, than regular milk, if I'm remembering right. But it's more or less the same consistency. It's just a slightly different flavor. But rice milk it's how some people say skim milk is just water. Rice milk is just water. It has the exact consistency of water. It looks like you boiled rice and then you took the water from that rice and that's the milk.
Which that is what it is.
It probably is what it is. I remember one time we had they weren't jugs of milk, they were cartons, I guess. Cartons of milk. And we had a carton of soy milk in the fridge, in the door of the fridge that was pushed back to the side, and we forgot about it. Do you remember this? And we found it when it was months expired, and I remember I think it was me who recorded it. It was either me who recorded it or Lexi recorded it. All I know is she wanted to use it in one of her videos, the Hollywood Hillbillies.
It was something weird like that. We never finished that project.
She wanted to call it the Heavenly Hillbillies, but Mom didn't want her to call it
No, that was my suggestion.
Whatever. Anyway, so this expired soy milk, just squeezing it out of the carton, it was like squeezing pudding out from a carton. It didn't stink. It wasn't like regular milk where it gets curdled and it's all chunky and whatever. If you've ever seen that milk get really bad, but this stuff, like I said, it was like pudding. It was weird. But yeah, the Heavenly Hillbillies was a weird thing, and I don't know why Mom didn't want her to name it the Heavenly Hillbillies. I guess that's sacrilegious or something.
I don't know. I remember I remember Lexi would get really pissed off about me when we were recording because I would ad-lib and she hated that.
But she wouldn't give you a script or anything.
Yeah, so what else was I supposed to do?
No, you're supposed to say exactly what I tell you to.
And
There was... Oh, you can...
I remember specifically, there was one where it was like supposed to be the one character was recording, and then I remember, like Lexi was the one who was the character, and say, I'm making a movie, and I remember I said, what, are you going to put it on YouTube or something? And then, no, and then she whispered in my ear, shut up, Logan. Shut up, Logan is what I said. I don't know if that picked up on camera.
Yeah. I do remember there was one scene where she had you reading like it was a piece of paper. It was supposed to be like a treasure map or something like that, like a fake treasure map. I just remember that her story, like she just made it up as she went along, and it was so weird and convoluted, and she never even finished it or whatever. But it was supposed to be like this fake treasure map to try to lure the hillbillies out of their Hollywood mansion. And you were the granny, because of course you did a great granny.
Oh yeah, I did.
You don't anymore. You hit puberty.
I hit puberty.
Anyway, you were supposed to be looking at the map, but the map was actually the script of what you were supposed to be saying, and so that just sounded terrible because you kept like looking back at it and slowing down your lines. Like forget the name of what the character was supposed to be, but like, go get your pa. We're going on a treasure hunt. And that was your acting.
I probably still would suck ass at acting, but I'd probably be better now.
Are you saying you do a porno?
Yeah.
You'd suck ass for acting?
No, I don't. I haven't tried acting in a long time, so.
I want to make some more sketches and stuff like that. Because I was thinking about how much fun I used to have just making random videos, just making stuff up as I went along. How much fun that was. I do want to try to get back into that at some point. I'd never replace YouTube Poop with doing that, but I think it could be fun to do sketches every once in a while on the side.
Well,
like I mentioned, doing like a sketch thing where like a bunch of YouTube Poop characters come to life and whatever. Like I might talk to you about that later on, because I do have some ideas for that.
Yeah, don't give it all away on here.
I'm not going to give any of it away on here.
But when you said I would never want to replace YouTube Poop, didn't you say the same thing when you started YouTube Poop? Oh, this isn't going to replace my sketches.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I found out how much I love YouTube Poop, and I just prefer it over doing sketches.
You prefer pooping over sketching?
Yes. Who doesn't?
I don't know. So,
well, we've been going on now for about an hour and a half if you cut out the shit at the beginning that we were doing.
So,
we could keep going. We could probably keep going for like another hour and a half.
I was just going to say, so, should we talk about some early YouTube stuff then?
Early YouTube stuff. Well, we had dial-up, even up until 2007. And a really, really terrible computer. Like,
yep.
I think we talked about this with in the Hoffy episode.
Yeah.
Or it might have been the Sonic High XD episode. One of the two.
One of them we mentioned dial-up and how probably a lot of some of our fans might not even know what that is.
Yeah. But the computer we had, like, I don't even think it had a gigabyte of hard drive on it.
Really?
So I remember we would have to get permission to save MS Paint pictures. That would take like half a megabyte.
If even.
Yeah. But I remember the first video I ever watched on YouTube that I can remember, which at this point I didn't know about YouTube. I just would go to Google and then go to the videos thing, and so I just thought it was Google Videos. Which, if I'm remembering right, I don't think you'd have to actually go to YouTube to watch the video. I think it could just play in Google. But anyway,
I don't think it's that way anymore, but it did used to be.
Right. But the first video I ever watched from YouTube was the trailer for VeggieTales, the Pirates Who Don't Do Anything.
That was the first YouTube video you watched?
Yes, it was. And I remember it took like an hour to watch it because I kept having to rewind it. We'd play it, it would play for like 3 seconds, rewind it, it would play for like another 3 seconds, have to rewind it, play for like another 3 seconds, you know what I mean?
Why didn't we just pause and let it load?
Because that would have taken an hour, and we just wanted to watch it. Usually, actually, we would pause it and leave it paused for like 10, 15 minutes, but then we'd get impatient and then just play it and rewind and play, rewind, play, rewind. But then the other thing, like the second video I can remember watching on YouTube was Weird Al's Beverly Hillbillies song, the Money for Nothing asterisk Beverly Hillbillies. Or no, Money for Nothing / the Beverly Hillbillies asterisk. That's the name. If you don't know the story behind that, that's the name that the lawyers, Dire Straits, I think that's the name of the band who did the original song. Their lawyers wouldn't let Weird Al do the parody of their song unless he named it that specifically for some stupid reason.
I do remember watching that, but I remember watching the whole movie. So
Not on YouTube.
well, no, I know not on YouTube. I don't know if I had seen the music video until around 2008 or 9 when we had it like recorded on a VHS and we watched it.
Yeah.
But there was like a specific scene that was like cut over.
Well,
it was like what was it? It was like a.
Well, we did. It wasn't our tape. We borrowed it from someone who was like an even more strict Christian family, and so like there was a scene. It was. It's like this. It shows a bunch of parodies. It's like a parody of Jerry Springer, and like it's like in one scene he's talking to Satan, and I'm assuming that's why it was taped. It was fast forwarded through that part. But I guess there was also like a Ku Klux Klan member or something like that. So.
Was it? Did it record over the sex with furniture?
Yeah, that was also a part of that scene.
And
that's
that whole scene was recorded over.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I seem to remember when I rewatched the movie years later, like back in 2013 or 14 or something, I didn't remember anything from that scene.
Yeah.
So that explains it. That's a good
Although
movie.
we did used to watch movies on YouTube, remember that?
Oh yeah.
It'd be like 10 different parts, and we didn't realize that was illegal, so we did that.
We did it all the time.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of...
We used to have like family movie nights where we would watch movies on YouTube.
I think, honestly, I think about that, I'm like, that's probably not something we just... I'm sure that we weren't the only ones that did that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure there were a lot of people who did it. But I mean...
I mean, now it's like Netflix and Hulu exists, Amazon,
Right.
It's like... So you can't even use the convenience excuse anymore because it's already there.
Right.
It's there now. It wasn't at the time. I mean, it might have been, but...
But I remember... I remember back on that dial-up internet... and it was in the basement. Like, you went down into the basement and kind of turned around the staircase, and it was right there on that little table there. And there was just something about... like, it was sort of almost kind of creepy-ish at times. Like, I remember I used to have a weird obsession with the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah. We were, like, obsessed with Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
Like, we were 100% convinced Bigfoot was real.
Yes. 100%. Also the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it might still just be like a part of my childhood naivety left over, but I still think it's possible there could be some sort of undiscovered creature that's like that. But
Yeah, but
I mean, definitely not the way that they're, like, presented. And I mean, we never thought it was, like, one creature. Like, it was never, like, Bigfoot the mythical creature. It was, like, Bigfoot the undiscovered animal species.
I'm at a point now where I'm like, Bigfoot's not real.
Yeah.
It's just not real.
I remember Nicole, our sister-in-law, mentioned, Bigfoot's not real. That's just stupid. And I was so fucking pissed. I wanted to punch her in the face.
Bigfoot is real, you fuck.
Yes. Which, like I said, like, I want to believe that Bigfoot's real. Like, I think that could be, that could be fun. It's fun to think about. I just, I don't think...
I see it as more like conspiracy theories. Like, they're
Right.
fun to watch, but they're bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
You know it's all bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I do still think it is possible there's some sort of rare, undiscovered species that's what is Bigfoot, but not like all the sightings and stories and everything, those are all fake, I think. Or at the very least exaggerated. But I'm not like one of those people who's just like, would dismiss every single thing, like every single story, every single sighting, everything like that. I just don't think, I'm not into it anymore like it used to be. Like,
So,
I imagine I would have been really big into, like, finding Bigfoot or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, what I was getting at when I was talking about that is, remember we used to go onto Google Images and just look up pictures of Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot. And,
yes.
Like, we just like assumed they were like all real, unless it was like obviously a fake like parody image or something like that.
Which,
and I think that might it's really weird because I've noticed in recent years that I'm kind of a bit creeped out by like sea monster type stuff. Like it's almost like a mild phobia, but like in a fun way.
Huh?
Like I don't know really how to explain it, but I don't think I used to be that way, and I don't know if my obsession with the Loch Ness Monster is what caused that, or I would think that would prevent that, but you know, like I said, like watching shark movies, like the first time I watched Jaws, it was intense and like I was on the edge of my seat and everything, but it wasn't like a phobia, you know, like watching a spider movie would not be something I'd be into. Like watching Jaws, I really fucking love Jaws.
That's interesting. I didn't, because I mean, you know, I like Jaws. I thought it was a really good movie, but I didn't feel that way while watching it. So clearly, whatever happened to you didn't happen to me.
Yeah,
which is interesting because I was the one that was more easily scared.
Yeah. Which, like I said, I didn't used to be, and like I don't even know if I would call it. Well, I don't know. I guess it's there has to be some word for this where it's almost like a phobia, but like I said, it's something that's fun. It's enjoyable. It's not like something you want to avoid. It's something that, you know, like a real life situation, like being out on a boat on like the ocean at nighttime, would terrify me. I think, but like just the thought of it doesn't scare me.
Huh.
And like I said, watching like shark movies and stuff is something I like doing. It's not like a phobia, I guess. I don't know. It's weird. It's hard to explain. Like I said, I've only just recently noticed this.
I remember back to like the Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster stuff. I remember for several hours on end watching videos on YouTube about Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster.
Yes, I remember we watched one Bigfoot video. We were convinced was real, just because we were convinced Bigfoot was real. Which I wonder if it's still on YouTube. It was like a Blair Witch parody.
It was a parody.
Yes, it was a parody. It was, I guess, like a homage. Is it homage or homage? I've heard it both ways, and I don't know.
It's probably one of those things where it's acceptable both ways.
I usually say homage just because, you know, there's an H in it, so why would you put an H if it's
homage sexual?
Homage sexual. But it's just like these 4 teenagers or whatever in the woods, which was probably just like 5 feet out from like their backyard or something like that. Just like 5-10 minute long video of just them basically trying to make it look convincing, like it's real found footage type thing. And at the very end, like one of them goes missing or whatever, and like at the very end they see like a shadowy figure in the distance, like, what is that? Holy shit, it's coming at us! They drop the camera and run away, and then like you just see like a big like foot like run past the screen. We were convinced that was real.
You see, I can understand why I was convinced, because I was like 9, maybe 10. But
no, I would have been. Well, actually, no, I would have been more than 10. I would have been like 13, Logan, maybe 14.
What year? What year was that we saw that?
It would have been like 2008.
So I would have been like 9.
Yeah. And I just said I would have been like 13 or 14.
Okay, I was. Yeah, even then though, at that point.
Logan, I was new to the internet. I was like 13 or 14.
Okay, I guess new to the internet. That's. I just find it kind of funny.
When you want to believe something is real, you're gonna believe it's real.
Yeah. It's just funny in hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
I actually. It's also funny how much I've changed about that then, because it's like I was making coffee in the kitchen or something, and I just heard like the TV in the background. Dad was watching it, and there was a sighting, and it was a Sasquatch, and it was like History Channel or something.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to not laugh.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, that's probably the type of stuff we would have watched on TV if we had TV at the time.
Oh yeah. And like I said, you know, when Nicole mentioned, you know, that it's stupid that people still believe in Bigfoot, I wanted to fucking punch her in the face. I was so pissed.
You were that passionate about your belief in Bigfoot.
I think, to be totally honest, I think I kind of hated Nicole for a little while after that. Which is so funny thinking back on it. I mean, maybe not hate, but wasn't too fond of her.
Bigfoot was like a religion at the time.
Basically, like if some like at that time, if someone would have said, I don't believe in Jesus, I would have been like, oh, that sucks. Oh, I don't believe in Bigfoot. Fuck you.
Bigfoot is our Lord and Savior. He died for our sins.
And that's why there are no left.
Yep.
He died.
Yeah, he died for our sins. I'm trying to think, well, what else did we do on YouTube?
But he wasn't the son of God, so he died in vain. And he went to hell. Because he was a sinner.
So, what else did we watch on YouTube early on?
Fred.
Well, I'm talking like weird stuff that
like just weird one-off video stuff that...
Well, like weird stuff like we haven't talked about, like the Bigfoot stuff. I don't think we've talked about that before until now.
I think we maybe mentioned it briefly in one episode. But let me think here. What else did we used to watch? I mean, like I said, we used to watch Fred. That's like the only thing I can really think of that stands out. I guess we weren't really into weird stuff until we found YouTube Poop.
Yeah, we watched some shitty YouTube poops.
And some good ones. I still like.
Yeah.
We've mentioned
Mario and
many
Luigi
times.
Travels
Mario and Luigi Travels Through Time. Despite being dated in its techniques, it still holds up in quality.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see like Walrus Guy remake that, like in his modern style, like his Guanum's Great Adventure. You've seen that one, right?
I think so.
That's one where Guanum wants to see Dino Time.
Yes.
And so he commits suicide because there is no Dino Time.
Yeah, I watched that one.
Yeah, that's like what that might be. That probably is my favorite story-based CDIYTP, or just favorite CDIYTP in general.
So,
what?
Any other weird childhood memories? Like the early YouTube stuff. Like the way we acted on YouTube early on.
Like saying epic and putting everything in caps and saying screw the Fred haters and stuff like that.
I don't know about you, but early on YouTube, I was a fucking asshole.
Oh yeah.
You were too?
Well, of course.
Okay.
Oh, well, I think for me it was more of just coming across as an asshole because of, like, I would end every sentence with an exclamation point, and because even though I knew that was not grammatically correct or whatever, I would still do it just because I thought it looked better. And I did it so often that even today I don't like to use exclamation points because even when I know it is correct, I don't like to use it because I don't like the way it looks anymore. So I overdid it. I was thinking about like an interaction I had on YouTube one time, when I would end everything in an exclamation point. That I'm like, wow, that comes off as if I was just pissed off and whatever. So I was talking to this. It was like a comedian, like a smaller comedian, whatever. Kind of interacting with him on YouTube through YouTube comments, whatever, like the channel comments, whatever. And I'm like, oh, you're one of my favorite comedians. Like, one of them? You mean there's other ones? And I'm like, well, yeah. I haven't seen a whole lot of your stuff, I guess. It's like, oh, well, I have a bunch of DVDs and stuff. And like I said, like I wasn't intending this to sound like a dick, but it does. I'm like, yeah, and there's this other thing called money, which you need a job for, which I don't have. Like I said, ending them all in exclamation points. And he never replied to that. And I'm like, oh, I wonder why he didn't want to reply. And then, like I said...
Even if it wasn't in exclamation points, you still come off as a dick.
Well, like I said, that wasn't the intention. I would have been like 15 or something like that. It was just like, oh yeah, I mean, there's also money, which I don't have.
This isn't like me being a dick on YouTube, but I just remember specifically, I didn't like get angry at the person. I think even back then I thought it was kind of funny. I put like, this video was frickin' awesome, and then someone replied, what's a frick dick biscuit?
What? What's a frick dick biscuit?
What's a frick, comma, dick biscuit?
Okay.
I didn't get mad at him or anything. I just remember thinking it was actually kind of funny even back then.
That's weird, because I would have thought you would have been pissed off.
I mean, at that point I was like 13.
You probably would have been like, what's a dick?
No, I knew what a dick was at that point.
I remember, thanks to YouTube comments, I learned the word genitals. I don't know how I didn't know the word genitals when I was like 15, but I didn't.
Okay.
But anyway, so that was my video that was like that impressions video I made. You remember that?
Yes.
Where like I just did a whole bunch of random impressions that I thought I was good at or whatever, and even some that I had never tried before. Like I tried to do an Obama impression because I'm like, oh, Obama will get views. That's literally why I tried to do
Obama will get me views.
Yes, that's literally why I tried to do an Obama impression. But anyway, in hindsight, it's so funny. It's so telling of the time that this comment was made. But somebody commented, "Fake and gay."
Fake and gay.
And I remember I replied with the reply that I would always give whenever I got insulted. Oh, why are you talking about yourself? And I'm like, no, but seriously though, what do you mean fake?
Fake and gay.
And he's like, and some of that reply was something like, oh, if you knew the movie it was from, you'd get the reference. Anyway, these impressions suck big fat hairy male genitalia. Or genitals or whatever. And I remember I went onto his channel and he did impressions and stuff like that. I didn't watch any of his videos because I was afraid he was going to be good at impressions, and I didn't want him to be good at impressions because I hated him.
Fake and gay is a reference to something?
I guess so. I don't even know.
I just thought that was like a weird internet thing from the late 2000s.
Well, I mean, pretty much every weird internet things from the late 2000s was a reference to something. It wasn't until like the past 5 years that memes started becoming absolute nonsense.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, I eventually deleted that video.
Do you still have it anywhere?
I do. I haven't watched it in a long time because I can't imagine it's good.
Fake and gay. Didn't you, it was something like someone who was like a subscriber of yours rated one of your videos 1 star and said it was terrible. No. And then you went and rated one of yours.
No. That's not the way it went.
Okay.
The way it went was somebody uploaded a video, somebody that I was subscribed to. I don't remember the exact context, but it was something like, if you follow me or subscribe to me on this website or whatever, I'll make you a channel introduction or something like that. And I remember specifically thinking, oh, that sucks. I can't do that because I don't use that website or whatever. And thinking, that I'd rate it 1 star. And like, I don't even know why I would, but I just, I might as well do it because I don't like the video or whatever. And so I gave it 1 star. And I don't even know how, but somehow he found out it was me. And he commented on my video, dude, what the fuck? Why did you give my video 1 star? And I didn't reply to him because I was like, oh shit, how did he find out it was me, whatever. Which, in hindsight, probably comes off as just me being a dick. And so then he went and rated one of my videos 1 star.
I think back then, couldn't you see who rated your videos? You can't do that anymore.
There was so much weird stuff on YouTube that came and went, like, within a week or something like that. There was a time where you could see, like, recent ratings or whatever. But I'm assuming they got rid of that to avoid harassment. Because of, if you saw somebody rated at 1 star. Like, I used to go on Fred videos and see people rated at 1 star and go onto their channel and be like, what, you don't like Fred?
What, you don't like Fred?
Well, I'd be like, I don't know, something like that. Just to, like, point out that they don't like Fred.
Lol epics.
Lol epics,
I don't think we used epic back then, yet.
Back to what you were saying about somebody rating one of my videos 1 star and me rating one of their videos 1 star. There was that one guy, like the first negative comments I ever got, where he was just like constantly coming back to the video to make fun of me about how I was going to end up a homeless loser on the street if I kept making videos, whatever. I did eventually go to one of his videos and give it 1 star, but it was like how to pick a lock or how to not get caught shoplifting or something like that. So I don't know why he was concerned about my future.
Were these like actual videos and not joke videos?
I never watched them. I just clicked on long enough to give it 1 star.
Oh, I don't even remember. I just remember I got into some heated debates in comment sections about probably stupid shit and people telling me to go die in a pit.
I used to go on Loch Ness Monster videos and get into arguments about creation versus evolution.
Oh boy, that's something you should never debate on the internet.
No.
That was another thing that I debated about. I also debated about politics, which is funny because a lot of those political things that I said, I'm like, I don't even agree with that anymore.
Yeah. And a lot of like the religious type stuff. I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but I'm not religious anymore. I don't know if that. I'm assuming that's kind of obvious, but
yeah.
So like a lot, like especially the whole like evolution versus creation thing. Like that's not stuff that
You just don't give a fuck anymore.
Right. And like even if I did, I wouldn't argue. Like near the end of like before I finally decided that what actually evolution actually makes perfect sense. Like near the end of that point, I was just like, when I still believed in creationism and everything, I was like, I'm just not even going to bring it up. I'm not even going to argue about it.
Yeah, I don't know why I bothered bringing it up. Even back then, I like knew it was like. I think even then I knew that it was like an unspoken rule: no religion, no politics on the internet. But I'm like, I don't care.
But I mean, like with politics, I don't think I really got into political conversations unless it was like a political-based video. Like of course, we were in a conservative household, and so that means that Obama's the devil in our minds. So
I don't think we literally thought he was the devil. We just hated him.
I think we almost kind of did think he was the Antichrist.
I never thought that. Did you?
I remember talking to Jeffrey one time, and Jeffrey was talking about how he knew people who thought he was the Antichrist, and which could have just been him, like exaggerating whatever. Well, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think he's the Antichrist, but he's definitely not good. He's not far off, or something like that.
There was like this like cult of Christians that believed that he was the Antichrist. Obviously, I don't think it was most Christians, but
right.
I don't think we were a part of that. At least I wasn't.
Yeah, no. I mean, I know for sure Mom and Dad didn't like him, and I do remember them, really not liking him, but not going as far as to say that he was the Antichrist or anything like that. It's funny to think about, actually.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember the Computer Nerd 01. I remember that was one of the reasons why I started not liking his videos anymore was because he mentioned Obama.
He didn't even say whether or not he was an Obama supporter.
Yeah, it was just like some Q&A type thing. Like, what should I name my cat? And he's like, Obama, yeah! And I just remember commenting in all caps, no Obama!
No Obama.
If I could go back in time, I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary on YouTube. If I could go back in time to when I first started, I think I'd punch myself in the face.
I was just going to say, if I could go back in time to when I was, like, first on YouTube and making these comments coming off as a dick, I would punch myself in the dick.
I'd go back in time and I'd kick both of us in the dick for us. And be like, that's for the future.
You'll understand when you're older.
Yes.
You fucking dicks. Yeah.
And heck is a swear word.
Yeah, I don't think... I think Mom did at one point think heck was a swear word, but I heard Dad use it, so I don't think he ever thought it was a swear word.
Well, you told me that story about how you said, what the heck, and Mom's like, I don't appreciate you using that language in my house.
No, what it was... Because I said, what the heck? Then, hey, Logan! I am so sick of everyone in this house thinking it's okay to swear.
You spit on me.
Oops.
Yeah.
Well, I remember April, one of our sisters, was at our house one time, and I'd come upstairs from my room. Well, I haven't seen you all day. How the heck are you? And then Mom walked by. We don't use that language in our house.
Yeah, and I don't think she was joking. She was. I remember one time when we were in the trailer court, we were talking about we used to call them minor league swear words. I don't know if that's even a term that exists or something that heck, darn, replacements for real profanity.
I think that I don't know if there's an official term for them, but I think I just hear people call them replacement swears or something like that.
Yeah, well, we call them minor league swear words for whatever reason. But I remember specifically asking Mom what she thought about, what about yarn with a D? You mean darn? Yes. I don't like that word.
I took her.
I don't know why I specifically remember this detail, but I remember thinking back. I think that from an outside viewer, I would come off as like a serial killer in the making.
Why?
Because I used to let flies crawl on me, and because like I liked the way that it felt when they'd like lick your skin or whatever. And I remember when we were having that conversation, there was a fly like crawling right over my eye, and I was like would just kind of close my eye and let it like crawl over me or whatever.
What the fuck?
Like I said, at the time it was perfectly normal to me. But like I remember Mom being like, "How can you stand letting the fly crawl across your face like that?" Oh, I like it. And I was concerned about you having an imaginary friend.
Because you thought it was a literal fucking demon.
Well, I thought it could have become a demon. I didn't think Invisible Kid was a demon.
Invisible.
Logan Bonnie the Butt Boy?
Yeah.
No, it's not Logan Bonnie the Butt Boy. It's Logan Bonnie Butt Boy.
Logan Bonnie Butt Boy.
And you used to call it Shawnee Bonnie Wick Wick Gawani.
Yeah.
Or maybe, was that me or was that, I think that was you.
That was like all of us.
Because Jordan used to be the one who would come up with the weird fucking nicknames. And then it became me, and then it became you.
I don't call people nicknames at this point.
Yeah, you do. You call them by their screen names on YouTube. That's a nickname.
Well, I don't make up weird nicknames for them. They make up weird nicknames for them. That's interesting how
Penis
it's like...
Man. Except that was me.
That was you.
That was me.
Yeah, if I don't usually, unless if I like get to know them, like the Penis Man's real first name, I don't know if he has it public, so just to be safe, I'm not going to say it. I know his first name. So if I hear his first name when someone's referring to him, I know who they're talking about. But like
John.
No, it's not John.
Is it Peter? That would be funny.
Peter, man. No. But it's like but I think I've heard some people refer to like Emp Lemon by his first name, and I don't know who he is at first, and
Aaron,
that's his name.
Yeah.
It's because it's like, there's some people you just know them better by their screen name.
Yeah, well, I mean, like when I went to England, I know Dominic, Emil, and Brad, Nintendo 64, Might Ice, and the Palms Joker. I think all kind of had a hard time kind of deciding if they should call me Jimmy or Jalen. Because, my screen name is a real name, Jimmy, but it's not my real name.
What did they end up calling you for the most part?
I think Dominic called me Jalen, and Emil called me Jimmy, and I don't know. Brad talked the entire time, so I don't think he ever had to start a conversation again, so he didn't have to say my name.
You should just legally change your name to Jimmy Davis.
I don't know. I like having a weird name though.
I mean, I think it was Sky Williams who changed his last name, or not last name, first name to Sky, because that was his screen name, and he just got used to it or something, or it was his nickname growing up or something. I don't remember.
Well, Jimmy wasn't a nickname for me, so
yeah. But who knows? Maybe it'll end up like that.
I mean, Jimmy could be a nickname for me.
Yeah. Didn't Lexi used to call you JJ the jet plane?
That was Letha.
Letha.
Letha would call me JJ. No, she would. It was one of Jordan's ex-girlfriends started calling me JJ, and Letha kind of picked up on it, wouldn't say JJ the jet plane or whatever. Or no, I think it was just JJ, and I just hated it because of JJ the jet plane.
Jordan had girlfriends before?
Yes.
I don't remember them.
He had one. I think he only ever had one girlfriend before he met Nicole. At least only one that I can think of.
Huh.
Do you have a girlfriend?
Yes, her name is Hand. We have sex all the time.
Shut up. What was up with that laugh?
Your reaction.
I just said shut up. And then you went...
I thought it would be funny. No, I don't have a girlfriend.
Okay, that's good. You have a boyfriend.
Yes. His name is Hand.
Oh, shut up.
No, I don't have
I have a girlfriend. Her name is Left Hand. But now I have a boyfriend. His name is Right Hand.
Sometimes we have a threesome.
Okay. This is getting weird. These aren't memories anymore. We're making new ones.
Any interesting memories you can think of off the top of your head?
We could probably do a whole nother episode like this at one point and just talk about stuff we didn't talk about.
We should at some point.
I didn't talk about the time I got left at church one time.
Oh yeah, we should talk about that.
Well, there's not really much... I mean, we kind of already talked about, We kind of almost went in chronological order, starting with Pinewood, then the trailer court, then...
Now?
Yeah. And then talking about having sex with your hand. Which, by the way, I do remember there was a kid named Brian in the trailer court who told Letha that he had sex with his hands.
Was he just saying that he was masturbating?
Probably. I mean, he was that weird kid. Like, he was such an early 2000s. A lot of people forget that the early 2000s had a distinct fashion style. It was like crossing over from the 90s into the 2000s, like the more modern 2000s. But, like, he would dress wearing like these like sneakers and these baggy jeans that were so baggy that he would have to constantly be holding them up. But he would hold them up by having his hand like on his crotch. Like he would be pulling up like that and just kind of waddling around. And he always wore like a sweater, even like in the middle of the summer, and a beanie. And he had shaggy blonde hair. And he was the guy who convinced me to trade him my PlayStation 1 with like Tony Hawk 4. I think I had Tony Hawk 1 and 4. I had Cool Borders 3, SimCity 2000, probably a bunch of other, at least a good couple more games at least, anyway, and a couple controls. I traded all that to him for a Sega Genesis with Tailspin, NFL Quarterback Club, and NHL 95.
So none of the good games.
None of the good games. He told me that he had like Sonic games and stuff. He just needed to find them. And I remember when I asked Mom and Dad if I could trade him my PlayStation for that. Dad's like, "That's a bad deal. You're gonna regret it." And I did. Because he kept telling me, I have the Sonic games and stuff. I just need to look for them. But if you could do me a favor and go get me an apple, then I'll find them as soon as I can. I don't think he talked like that. I'm just doing a voice.
So it sounds like he was just a dick who conned you.
Yes, exactly. I should hunt him down and ask him where Sonic is.
Where's Sonic 3? I don't have it.
He never said Sonic 3. I don't even know for sure if he even said Sonic. I think he just said he had good games, had more games.
Okay.
And I think I just imagined Sonic, because, that's the only thing that's good on the Sega Genesis.
There's some other good games, but that's like the
But like for a casual gamer, that's like
the most popular. They're actually. So, you got conned out of your PS4.
And he would get me to do favors.
Or not PS4, PS1.
PS1, yeah. And he would get me to do favors, like, not much, but like I said, give me an apple, because we got like a big tote full of apples from the person who used to live in the house that Mom and Dad now live in. Which there's a story behind what happened with her, I guess. It's not like our story, but it is an interesting story. I could talk about that in a minute. But we got like a big tote of apples, and you have me get an apple. Oh, this one's bruised, get another one. And, can you call, whatever our neighbor's name was, and ask her if she has my sweater. And so I fucking hate making phone calls, but like I wanted those Sega games, so I made the phone call, and like her dad picked up, I'm like, what's her, whatever her name was. Just give me a girl name.
Sarah.
Is this Sarah there? No, who is this? Oh, this is Jalen, your neighbor. Brian wanted me to call you to ask if you have, if she has his sweater. Oh, Brian wanted you to call. Yeah. Okay, she's not here. Okay, thanks.
What if this kid watches our videos now?
Fuck you.
He's probably not as bad.
I mean, he wouldn't be a kid anymore. He was like 4 years older than me. 4 or 5. Maybe even 6.
He's probably... maybe he's not a dick anymore?
Maybe he's dead.
That's fucking dark.
I'm just saying. A lot can happen. But yeah, well, anyway, before I forget, just to mention the story about the person who lives in the house, or lived in the house, before we moved into it. I don't even know if you remember. Do you remember she had somebody living with her, and like he just snapped one day and shot her 11 times?
What the hell?
You don't know about that?
Wait. This was...
She didn't die, but she got shot 11 times, and then he shot himself in the head, and he died, of course, but she didn't.
This was like the people that owned the house before us?
Yeah. And that's how we got the house, actually, because she couldn't afford to, like, or she couldn't take care of it anymore or whatever, you know, because she was going to be in the hospital and all that, and so we bought it.
That's fucked up.
It kind of is. I mean, okay, no, it really is, but yeah, like I said, that's a weird story. Anyway, back to Brian the Dick. No, like that. Oh, shoot, there was one other story I was going to mention. I think I forgot what it was, though. It was probably nothing interesting, though. I think Brian used to smoke weed, or at least
Every day?
Or at least get drunk. Because I can remember Letha telling stories about him and his friends just acting completely stupid. Like Lexi, like drew a stick figure in the dirt road or whatever, and talking about how Brian and his friends were walking by and stopped, like, whoa, look, oh, I get it, it's Stick Man, goes up the stairs, and then he walked away.
Yeah, he was probably drunk or high.
Yes, or both.
Is it possible to do both at the same time?
He also used to spit in his house on the floor.
What?
You know, the funny thing is that's almost kind of like an early 2000s thing to do, is to spit. You know, like, you don't really see people spit all that often anymore, it seems like. Maybe it's just me, but everybody used to do it. Like, when you're outside, you just spit. And he would do that only inside. He's like, oh, I'm so glad my mom's gone so I can finally spit on the floor and she doesn't get mad at me.
The 2000s were a weird time.
Very weird time.
And it all seemed normal at the time. You know, growing up in the 2000s, but in hindsight...
Well, look at now. We got
dabbing,
and somehow skinny jeans are still a thing.
I think the difference is, it's at this point, it's like a lot of the fads, we recognize that they're fads now. I don't know if that's just because we're older, or if it's because it's more obvious now.
Well, I'm sure, like, 10 years from now, there'll be a lot of things that we just think are totally normal. Like, we'll probably look back at, like, just pictures of us and be like, holy shit, what were we wearing? Even though we're just, like, you're wearing jeans and a sweater, and I'm wearing t-shirt and khaki.
Well, I mean, sweaters, those aren't, like, a super recent thing, are they?
No, I'm just saying, like, I think there'll be a lot of things that we take for granted right now. Like, you can look at a picture, like if you've ever looked at pictures of, like, mom and dad when they were first married back in the 80s, it looks so 80s. Actually, I'm trying to think, they might have been married back in the late 70s. I might be wrong, but I think they got married right out of high school, which, if that is the case, this will be their 40th anniversary this July. And even if I'm wrong, it should be like the 39th or 38th. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I'm like one of the youngest, so.
Yeah, you are the second to youngest.
Yeah, people always seem so surprised, like when I mention how many siblings I have.
Well, I mean, it's not normal. Most people have like 2 or 3, and that's like a big family is like if you have 5 kids.
I mean, hey, look. I'm glad they decided to have a big family because I wouldn't exist.
Right.
Yeah, I remember once talking to someone, I think it was like at work at one point or something, like a few years back, and he's like, wow, your parents must have been bored a lot. Did they not have TV?
Well, I mean, we didn't. Like we just talked about.
Yes.
We got him 3 channels, so I mean, yeah. Yeah, that's one of those things that when you get to be an adult, you don't want to think about.
Yeah.
Like,
did you want to think about it as a kid?
Well, as a kid, you just think, oh, they went to sleep together and had a baby, and as an adult, you're like, oh shit, no, gross. I don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
So
I used to think babies came out of the butt.
I think everybody did at one point in their life. Probably, anyway.
I think a lot of people did. I mean, at first I used to think that was like a weird thing, like I was just like a weird kid, but then I found out, no, apparently a lot of kids used to think babies came out of the butt.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
That's only if you have butt sex.
Yes, that's Let's you pee in her butt.
You just gotta put your penis in her butt and you pee. Or you can pull it out and pee on the leg if you don't want to get her pregnant. Don't knock on wood.
But you just did.
Very hard wood.
Very hard wood.
I think at this point we've... I mean, like I said, we could still keep going on. I don't know. I don't know if this is entertaining to listen to, but it's entertaining to talk about.
Yeah, I want to keep talking.
I do kind of want to.
But we've been going on for 2.5 hours almost.
Well, yeah, 2 hours and 22 minutes according to the camera, but I mean, we have like a good couple of minutes that we can trim off the beginning. I mean, that we will trim off the beginning.
I'm trying to think.
I remember... Well, I could tell the story about getting left at church, but your hands are so fucking sweaty. How are your hands so sweaty? That's nasty.
They're not that sweaty, are they?
Yeah, they are.
Huh.
Anyway. I could tell that story, but at the same time, I wonder if I should save it for like a Childhood Memories Part 2. Maybe we'll see what people think of this one, and if enough people like this one, maybe we'll do another one.
Please like it, because I want to do another one of these.
I kind of want to, too. This is actually a lot of fun. What else do you remember as a child?
I remember...
My mom changing my diaper.
No. What's some weird stuff we used to watch? Like some weird movies and TV shows?
Like I said, we could save that for another one. I think we should probably wrap this up. Like I said... If you do like this one, definitely be sure to let us know if you think we should do another one, or if you think that, no, fuck you, just do more poopers. We talk to poopers.
Well, I'm sure this won't be our last solo one.
Alright. I mean, I know it won't be. Like, well, speaking of Solo, we're going to do one after we watch Solo.
Oh.
Well, actually...
When is that coming out?
I think that's coming out in May. Which actually, I was thinking, if it's coming out after... we do the final episode of season 1. Maybe we should just wait until episode 9, and then we can do like all the Star Wars movies. Because well, for those of you who don't know, we've been talking about since the pilot episode. Because with the pilot episode, one of the things we mentioned was how we were going to be going to see Rogue One, and we talked about, since we're both kind of casual Star Wars fans. How about how it might be interesting if we just marathoned all the Star Wars movies and did a podcast where, as casual fans, we're just talking about Star Wars and what we think about the movies and all that. And we've held on to that idea, and I think we'll still do it eventually. I just don't know if we should do it with this next movie that's coming out, the Solo movie, the Han Solo spin-off movie, or if we should wait until episode 9. Although I don't know when episode 9 is coming out.
Next year, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay, that's not too bad. We could wait till then.
At least I think. I mean, assuming because like the last 2 trilogies, they did a new one every 3 years, but I think this time they're doing a new one every 2 years with a spin-off movie in between.
Okay.
Unless, I don't know. I guess since this Han Solo movie is coming out so early, I wonder if they're just going to do it at the end of this year.
I don't think so, because I don't even think they've started filming for it.
Okay.
I think they've... From what I've heard, I think they've finished writing the script. But, anyway. So we might do that eventually. Like I said, we'll probably do that eventually. I just don't know if we'll do it with this next movie that's coming out, or if we should wait. I guess we'll find out. But anyway, basically that's just to say that we will be doing more solo podcasts, even though I know obviously people watch these more for just listening to their favorite YouTube poopers talking, and we're nobody's favorite. So.
I'm willing to bet most of the people watching this don't give a fuck about me.
They want to fuck you, though.
Oh, yeah. But no, seriously, I get the feeling if I was doing this podcast and you weren't doing this podcast, no one would watch it.
The Penis Man would. Actually, I don't even know if he's subscribed to Poopcast.
I don't know. I think he listens to it sometimes.
Yeah, maybe. I was actually considering doing, like, some sort of, what would you call that? A survey. Like, the things one did. Like, where it's just a bunch of questions related to the channel and everything. And one of the things to ask, are you familiar with Poopcast? And just have, like, the answers you could pick be like, yes, I'm a fan. Yes, I watch occasionally. Yeah, but I'm not really interested. Or no. and just kind of get a basic idea of what people think. Like, I don't think I'd really do anything with that information. It'd just be more like stuff that'd be interesting to know. What?
I don't know.
You put your hand on my shoulder like you were gonna kiss me.
That would be gay and incestuous.
Well, anyway, we should probably close it off here. So just a reminder, May 14th will be the final episode of Season 1. Unless we do decide to go ahead and do that solo one, which I think if it comes out after the 14th, I don't think we'll do it, but it's possible we might still do it. But either way, there will probably be some like highlights and some unreleased footage or unreleased recordings that'll be coming out later on while we're taking a break. But anyway, I should probably start finding our next guest. I have a few people lined up that I just need to ask for our next episode, and then after that, that's the season 1 finale, and I already know who we're getting for that, and I think people will be excited. Don't want to spoil who it is, though.
I don't think even I know.
I didn't tell you?
I don't think so.
Huh. Well, I'll tell you when we go get food.
Alright.
Do you have anything to add at the end?
This is the end. And we're all gonna die.
Would you like to hear about our Lord and Savior, Bigfoot?
Yes. He is very attractive.
The fuck?